Chapter 485. The Sky Pillar sect had just gone through a great calamity and was in the midst of rebuilding. Ji Tianxing was worried about the Sky Pillar sect, so he naturally had to go back. After leaving the Cloud Spirit Palace, he rode Qianyu and sped through the sky, flying all the way to the south. Along the way, Qianyu flew over thousands of mountains and rivers, crossing countless majestic cities. Ji Tianxing was high up in the sky, overlooking the mountains, rivers, and cities below. Only then did he see the bustling scene of the Central Plains. The Central Plains had beautiful mountains and rivers, abundant spirit qi, and abundant resources. One ancient city after another, each with a history of hundreds to thousands of years, lay quietly between heaven and earth, exuding an ancient and vigorous aura. In the huge cities, rows upon rows of palaces and buildings could be clearly seen, as well as bustling crowds and martial artists of all shapes and sizes. Many martial practitioners with imposing appearances were riding strange spirit beasts or birds, shuttling back and forth between the cities. Even if those people flew across the sky on spirit beasts and brushed past Ji Tianxing, they would not take a second look at him. In the 9 regions of the southern continent, those at the Yuan Dan realm could be called experts. However, in the Central Plains, those at the Yuan Dan realm could only be called experts. Only those at the Heavenly Origin realm could be called martial arts experts. After all, the Central Plains was the sacred land of martial arts in the Tianxin continent. This place had the most abundant spirit qi and resources, as well as the most elite martial arts and secret technique inheritances. There were as many experts as there were clouds in the Central Plains. True geniuses came forth in large numbers, and heroes competed for supremacy. Qianyu flew for nearly 20 days before leaving the Central Plains. In these 20 days, Ji Tianxing crossed hundreds of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers and thousands of cities. He had a preliminary understanding of the Central Plains and increased his experience and knowledge. He deeply felt the vastness and prosperity of the Central Plains and saw a wider world. He secretly made up his mind to enter the Central Plains as soon as possible and establish a foothold here. Only in the Central Plains could he broaden his horizons and pursue a higher level of martial arts. The Central Plains, the sacred land where geniuses gathered, was a more splendid stage. Qianyu flew for another 10 days and finally carried Ji Tianxing back to the Star Ancient Realm in the Tianxin region. 2.5 months had passed since that shocking battle. The haze and influence of the war had gradually dissipated, and the situation in the Star Ancient Realm had stabilized. Of the original 8 great sects, only 4 were left. The Tianjin sect, the Thousand Autumns sect, the True Martial sect, and the Windfire sect had all fallen apart. The power structure of the ancient star realm had been reshuffled, and the other 4 sects had seized the opportunity to occupy a large number of spirit veins and treasured lands. Not long after, Ji Tianxing returned to the Sky Pillar sect. He rode Qianyu and flew above the Sky Pillar sect, looking down at everything within 100 miles. They saw that the Sky Pillar sect, which was originally in ruins, had taken on a new look. More than half of Heaven Raising Peak, Great Peace Peak, Jade Sword Peak, and Twin Moon Peak had been destroyed in that great battle. Now, the elders and disciples of the Sky Pillar sect worked together and spent 2 months to restore the 4 mountains to their original state. Row upon row of brand new palaces sat on the 4 mountains, reflecting dazzling golden light onto the afternoon sun. When the Demon Emperor had broken the seal, the entire Scarlet Firmament Peak had collapsed and turned into ruins. After the Scarlet Firmament Peak disappeared, the Spirit Vein Formation was also completely destroyed, leaving behind a huge pit with a radius of 20 miles in the ruins. Now, the abyss-like pit had long been filled in. The elders and thousands of disciples of the Sky Pillar sect spent a lot of effort to move a 1,000-meter-tall mountain and turn it into a brand new Scarlet Firmament Peak. The 9 mountains were still intact and arranged according to their original positions. Although the 9 Dragon Spirit Vein Formation had not been repaired yet, the world's spirit energy was slowly recovering. The sky was blue and the sun was warm. The world's spirit energy was abundant, and the 9 mountains exuded a majestic aura. After the war, the Sky Pillar sect had mostly returned to its original state. It did not look much different from before the war. The disciples of the Sky Pillar sect had also recovered their vitality. They were either busy repairing the sect's buildings or cultivating. Everything had returned to normal. The Sky Pillar sect had already walked out of the haze of the Great Calamity. Tianqing landed on the Scarlet Firmament Peak and landed on the square in front of the palace that had just been built. There were many disciples in the square. Under the leadership of several deacons, they were busy building the buildings around the square and planting some spirit trees and trees. When Tianqing descended from the sky, everyone raised their heads to look at him. Their faces revealed pleasant surprise as they cheered. "Look, it's Senior Brother Tianqing. Senior Brother Tianqing is back. That's great. I knew that Senior Brother Tianqing's luck was great. Nothing will happen to him. Senior Brother Tianqing, our great hero, is back." Not only were the dozens of disciples cheering in joy, even the deacons had gathered around with faces full of excitement. In a moment, everyone rushed into the square and surrounded Tianqing. The scene of the sect suffering a great calamity and Tianqing facing off against the demon emperor was deeply imprinted in everyone's minds, making it unforgettable for the rest of their lives. The surviving disciples of the Sky Pillar sect all remembered his indomitable aura and his valiant and heroic figure. From that moment on, almost all the disciples regarded him as their idol, a goal to learn from and emulate for the rest of their lives. In the 2 months after the end of the Great Battle, everyone learned that Tianqing was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Everyone felt pained and worried. They silently prayed for him, hoping that he could wake up and recover soon. Now that the disciples saw that Tianqing was safe and sound, their faces were flushed with excitement. Everyone crowded around him, talking and greeting him. Their voices were all very excited. "Senior Brother Tianqing, the scene of you fighting against the Demon Emperor is really unforgettable for the rest of my life. It's not just unforgettable for the rest of your life. The battle between Senior Brother Tianqing and the Demon Emperor was simply earth-shattering and earth-shattering. Senior Brother Tianqing, you're simply too mighty, just like a god descending to the mortal world." There were also 2 deacons who said excitedly, "Tianqing, not only are you a great contributor to our Sky Pillar sect, but you're also a great hero who saved the Heavenly Stellar Ancient Realm and the Heavenly Stellar region. Previously, the Grand Elder proposed to erect a statue for you in the sect to engrave your contributions and deeds for future generations to admire and worship. This matter has received the approval of all the elders and deacons. All the disciples of the sect have also expressed their support. Look, that's the statue that the sect erected for you." Tianqing looked in the direction that the deacon was pointing and saw a huge statue that was 100 meters tall at the edge of the square. Yesterday's outburst was too tiring. Little he had only slept for 4 to 5 hours for several days. His body could not take it anymore. "Today, I'll update 5 chapters at once. At night, I'll update 1 or 2 chapters. Thank you for your understanding and support." Chapter 486. It was obvious that the statue had been built not long ago. It looked brand new and was shrouded in the golden sunlight. It looked holy and majestic. It was a lifelike statue, and its figure and appearance were basically the same as Tianqing's. It was a sculpture of him fighting against the Devil Emperor. He stood at the edge of the square, facing the cliff. His eyes were fixed on the sea of clouds in front of him. He looked resolute and determined. His left hand was pointing to the ground. His right hand was raised, and his palm was pointing to the sky. He was releasing his most powerful killing move. Anyone who saw this magnificent statue would be able to feel the unparalleled domineering aura, as well as the bravery and heroism of risking one's life without regard for one's safety. Tianqing stared at the statue and sized it up. A hint of a smile could not help but flash in his eyes as he muttered to himself, "Senior Xiang is really something. He actually did this kind of false reputation thing." The 2 deacons smiled and said, "Tianqing, this is not for the sake of fame. This is the honor you deserve. Back then, you stepped forward bravely at the critical moment and fought against the Devil Emperor fearlessly. How heroic and impassioned you were back then. We all think that a statue of you is not enough. The Grand Elder said that the Grand Elder should record that battle and your deeds in the history books. You want your name to go down in history. Go down in history? Ji Tianxing did not know whether to laugh or cry. These words sounded a little awkward. After all, he was still alive and well. Then, Ji Tianxing exchanged some pleasantries with the others. Then, he walked through the square and entered the new towering sky hall. The new towering sky hall was basically the same as the old one. Ji Tianxing entered the hall and saw that there was only one person in the empty hall. It was Xiang Wuji. Xiang Wuji was sitting in front of a table, reading books and scrolls. Apparently, he was dealing with the affairs of the sect. There were dozens of reports, letters, and scrolls on the table, waiting for him to read and deal with. Ji Tianxing understood with a single glance that in these 2 months, Xiang Wuji had to preside over the overall situation of the sect and must be extremely busy. "Old master, I'm back." He smiled and greeted Xiang Wuji. Xiang Wuji was deep in thought as he held a memorial in his hands. When he heard the voice, his body trembled. He suddenly raised his head and saw Ji Tianxing standing in the middle of the hall, looking at him with a smile. He immediately stood up, his face full of excitement as he said with a joyful tone, "Tianxing, why did you come back?" As he spoke, Xiang Wuji quickly walked in front of Ji Tianxing and sized him up with bright eyes. "Ha ha ha! Your injuries and strength have all recovered. That's great. I've said it before. You brat, you're blessed with good fortune. You'll definitely be able to turn danger into safety and overcome this crisis." With that, Xiang Wuji pulled Ji Tianxing to his seat and impatiently asked, "Tianxing, quickly tell this old man, how did your injuries recover so quickly? Was it the transcendent from Cloud's Soul Palace who saved you? Where's Yin Yao? Did she come back with you?" Other than Yin Yao and Ji Ku, the happiest person to see Ji Tianxing fully recovered was Xiang Wuji. He was filled with joy and excitement as he asked a bunch of questions. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said with a complicated tone, "Old master, this is a long story. Let me tell you slowly." Then he briefly recounted what had happened in Cloud Soul Palace. Xiang Wuji listened quietly. The smile on his face gradually disappeared, and his mood became heavy. After a moment of silence, he could not help but let out a long sigh. "Sigh, I didn't expect this to be so complicated. Cloud Soul Palace is a mysterious and powerful family. They have a high status and a strong foundation. It's normal that they don't want to save you. Yin Yao, on the other hand, looks cold but has a strong personality. I can't believe she would make such a sacrifice for you. Brat, you and Yin Yao are in love. That's a great blessing. You can't let her down in this life." Ji Tianxing did not say anything. He only nodded silently. Xiang Wuji understood that he was a good man who valued friendship and loyalty. He did not say anything else and talked about another matter. "Tianxing, it's been more than 2 months since the end of the war. In these 2 months, thousands of disciples, elders, and deacons have completed the task of rebuilding the sect. Now, we just have to wait for your master to come out of seclusion. Then, we can work together to repair the spirit vein formation. After the sect reactivates the spirit vein formation, it will take at most a few years to recover. Yesterday, I ordered the elders to start recruiting a large number of servants and new disciples. Moreover, after the Heavenly Sword sect and the Thousand Autumn sect were annihilated, a large amount of spirit veins and precious lands were emptied out, and the various elders are constantly occupying them." Ji Tianxing was relieved after listening to Xiang Wuji talk about the Sky Pillar sect's recent situation and the following arrangements. He nodded and said, "Master is still recuperating in seclusion. You have to worry about these trivial and complicated matters. I'm afraid you'll be busy for a long time." Xiang Wuji waved his hand and said with a solemn expression, "Although I'm busy dealing with the sect's affairs, it's nothing. I'm old but strong, so I can still handle it. However, I'm still worried about something. I feel a little uneasy." Ji Tianxing frowned and asked doubtfully, What is it? Is it related to the Demon Emperor? Xiang Wuji nodded and said, That's right. Although you seriously injured the Demon Emperor and forced it to flee, there's been no news of it. In the past 2 months, there has been no news from the Devil Emperor. He hasn't caused any trouble, but this old man reckons that he is in seclusion to recuperate. I can't help but worry that the Demon Emperor might make a comeback after it recovers. Our sect has experienced a great calamity, and its vitality has been greatly damaged. If the Demon Emperor comes back, our sect won't be able to withstand it. Furthermore, not only will the star ancient realm encounter a great calamity, but the heavenly stellar region and the southern continent's 9 regions might also be plunged into misery and suffering. Ji Tianxing nodded with a solemn expression and said, Your worry is very reasonable. The Demon Emperor's strength at its peak was indeed terrifyingly powerful. Even if it only recovered 30% to 40% of its power, no one in the entire southern continent's 9 regions can resist it. In my opinion, only the central continent's imperial court can send powerhouses to resist or eliminate the Demon Emperor and prevent it from bringing disaster to the world. Imperial court. Xiang Wuji hesitated for a moment before saying with a bitter smile, Back then, before the great calamity arrived, the imperial court sent the Son of Heaven to preside over the overall situation. It's a pity that the Son of Heaven was also helpless about the heavenly stellar region situation and was even more powerless to stop the fiend race's conspiracy. Now that the great calamity is over, it's even more impossible for the imperial court to send powerhouses to help. I reckon that the imperial court will only send people to search for the Demon Emperor's whereabouts and launch a pursuit. But the Demon Emperor is hiding in the dark, and we're all in the open. It's really impossible to guard against it. Chapter 487. As long as the Demon King was not eliminated, the sky-bearing sect and the Tiantian region would not be at peace. This hidden danger had to be resolved as soon as possible. Ji Tianxing and Xiang Wuji both understood this point, but there was nothing they could do about it. They could not find the Demon King, nor did they have enough strength to eliminate the Demon King. At this point, the two of them fell silent, their hearts heavy. After a while, Xiang Wuji sighed and said helplessly, A transcendent expert like the Demon King is not someone the human forces of the 9 regions of the southern land can fight against. We can only pray that the Demon King does not come back for revenge, and that the imperial court can eliminate him as soon as possible, or the experts of our race in the Monarch Mansion can eliminate him for the people. Ji Tianxing frowned when he heard the name Monarch Mansion. Old Master, you also know about the Monarch Mansion? Can you tell me more about it? Xiang Wuji looked at him with surprise and explained, The Monarch Mansion is the most mysterious school and martial arts holy land in the Tiantian continent. The top geniuses of all races aim to enter the Monarch Mansion. I have roamed the continent for 200 years. How can I not know about the Monarch Mansion? But you, kid, you have only stayed in the central state for a few days. How do you know about the Monarch Mansion? Ji Tianxing explained calmly. When I left the Cloud Soul Palace, I made an agreement with Yun Yao's mother, Madame Yun. When I enter the Monarch Mansion, I can prove my talent and strength and have the right to be with Yun Yao. At that time, Madame Yun will not stop me and Yun Yao. Only then did Xiang Wuji come to a realization and said with a nod, So that's how it is. With the power and status of the Cloud Soul Palace, only the geniuses of the Monarch Mansion are qualified to be the son-in-law of the Cloud Soul Palace. Although Madame Yin looks down on people, it is understandable. Tianxing, you don't have to be so calculated with her. Also, I believe that with your talent, it won't be too difficult to enter the Monarch Mansion. Ji Tianxing nodded. Since I have made an agreement with Madame Yun, I will not go back on my words. No matter how powerful the Monarch Mansion is or how difficult it is to enter, I will not give up. Xiang Wuji saw the determination on his face and the determination in his voice. He nodded and praised. Good. You should have this kind of ambition and confidence, kid. Moreover, this old man also approves of you entering the Monarch residence to study. That was the top martial arts holy land on the continent, a mysterious force that even the imperial courts of various races feared. For thousands of years, the imperial residents had nurtured countless transcendents. They were all extraordinary characters whose names shook the continent. Tianqing, if you can enter the royal palace, you will have a chance to reach the transcendent stage. Whether it's for your martial arts future or for yin yao, you have to work harder and strive to enter the monarch mansion as soon as possible. Tianqing memorized Xiang Wuji's words and nodded. I understand. I will definitely enter the monarch mansion. Xiang Wuji thought for a while and said, Tianqing, our sect has a treasure called the Destined Star Map. Your master once used that treasure to deduce the heavens and predict the future. He predicted that you would be the nemesis of the Devil Emperor. If the imperial court cannot kill the Devil Emperor as soon as possible, the heavy responsibility of killing the Devil Emperor will fall on your shoulders. Although you're not strong enough now, you have a Kenshin bloodline. One day, you will become a transcendent and kill the Devil Emperor. If you stay in our sect, you will only be able to reach the heaven stage. You will not be able to surpass the celestial stage. Therefore, after a while, you will leave for the middle state and find a way to enter the monarch mansion. Only in the monarch mansion will you be able to grow faster and become a transcendent. You will be able to kill the Devil Emperor. Xiang Wuji's eyes were filled with anticipation, and his tone was solemn. Clearly, he had high hopes for Tianqing. Tianqing, of course, understood this. He nodded and said in a serious tone, Don't worry, old man. I will not let you down. Only then did Xiang Wuji reveal a trace of smile and said in an amiable tone, All right, you just came back from the central continent and must be tired from the long journey. Quickly go and rest. Tianqing got up and bid farewell. He left the sky-raising palace. He had just returned to his residence and was about to rest when someone came to visit him. He got up and opened the door to see a cute girl standing outside. It was Ku. Ku was a little excited, and her eyebrows were full of joy. When she saw Tianqing, she couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Big brother Tianqing, you're really back. I heard from the other disciples that you're back. I didn't dare to believe it and thought they were lying to me. I didn't think you would recover so quickly. This is great. You're finally fine. This is great. Perhaps because she was too excited, Ku actually cried tears of joy. Her clear eyes were filled with tears. Seeing her reaction, Tianqing revealed a gentle smile and reached out to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes. Cuckoo, don't cry. I'm fine now. And Ku nodded. She wiped away the tears in her eyes, and an excited smile appeared on her face. Then, Tianqing led her into the house. The two of them sat down, and only then did they start chatting freely. Brother Tianqing, you don't know how worried I was when you were in a coma for the past few days. I was so scared that you wouldn't wake up and never see me again. Ku looked at Tianqing with fear in her eyes. Tianqing smiled and comforted her with a few words. He also thanked her for taking care of him during those days. The two of them chatted for a while before someone came to visit. It was Yen. He had heard the news from the disciples and came to visit with excitement. Over the past 2 months, Yen had been thinking about Tianqing. He had been worried and praying for him. After entering the house, when he saw that Tianqing was safe and sound, his face was full of excitement. Tianqing chatted with Yen for a while and comforted him. Only then did he calm down. Then, the three of them chatted in the room and talked about the recent events in the Star Ancient Realm. After that great calamity, the power of the Star Ancient Realm had been reduced by half, and the structure had been reorganized. The Tianjin sect, Thousand Autumns sect, and the other 3 sects had fallen apart and were destroyed. After listening to Ku and Yen's narration, Tianqing found out that the surviving members of the 4 sect had internal strife and caused many jokes and absurd things. When talking about the destruction of the 4 sects, the 3 of them still had lingering hatred and cursed that the 4 sects deserved it. After the 3 of them finished talking about the various sects, the topic returned to the Sky Pillar sect. Ku and Yen were very pleased with the progress of the Sky Pillar sect's recovery and reconstruction in the past 2 months. The two of them pulled Tianqing out of the room and wanted to take him to see the changes in the Sky Pillar sect. Of course, Ji Tianxing readily accepted the good advice and did not refuse. Chapter 488. When Ji Tianxing had returned to the Sky Pillar sect, he had overlooked the sect's situation from high up in the sky. At that time, he only saw the 9 mountain peaks reappearing and the sect returning to its original state. Now he had walked around the various mountain peaks and found that the spirit chi in the sect was weak. It was still somewhat desolate and dilapidated. Some forests and gardens had been destroyed and were still bare. They could not be restored in a short period of time. Many palaces and buildings were damaged, but only the houses were repaired and the protective array of the palaces and buildings had not been set up. Even the inner and outer sect disciples only had temporary residences. They did not have a secret room for cultivation, nor did they have sufficient cultivation resources. In short, it would take a long time for the Sky Pillar sect to recover. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin chatted for a long time and finally talked about Yin Yao. Yin looked at him with some doubt and asked with concern, "Senior brother Tianxing, why didn't senior sister come back with you? Will she never come back here again after she goes home?" Ji Ku was also very concerned about this issue and asked, "Brother Tianxing, senior sister brought you back to Zhongzhou to find a way to treat your injuries. Now that you have recovered and returned to the sect, senior sister did not come back. Could it be that there was some unforeseen event?" Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment before he explained to the two of them. After Ji Ku and Yin heard his words, their expressions and emotions became a little complicated. Yin pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes were filled with confusion and anger. She said in a deep voice, "That Cloud Spirit Palace is too unreasonable. It's really hateful. Senior brother Tianxing, you and senior sister are so in love. You are simply a golden couple, a match made in heaven. You can do anything for each other, even risking your lives to protect each other, just like my father and mother. Why does that hateful Cloud Spirit Palace want to stop you two from being together?" Ji Ku's mood became even more complicated. She lowered her head slightly, not daring to look at Ji Tianxing's eyes. She was silent, but she thought to herself, "In the past, I always thought that I was the one who loved brother Tianxing the most, and that I would definitely be with him. Who would have thought that eldest senior sister, who looked cold and arrogant, would have such a strong personality?" Grand senior sister was deeply in love with big brother Tianxing. She was willing to sacrifice her life to save him. It's a pity that I'm too weak to help big brother Tianxing. However, I also love big brother Tianxing deeply. I'm willing to risk my life for him. Ji Tianxing saw that the atmosphere was a little tense, so he calmly comforted Ji Ku and Yin. "The two of you don't have to be so angry, and you don't have to worry about me and eldest senior sister. How could a powerful force like Cloud Soul Palace easily accept a nobody like me? However, being unknown is only temporary. I will soon set foot in Central Continent and fulfill my promise. It won't be long before I'll make Cloud Soul Palace look at me in a different light and make them stop obstructing me and eldest senior sister." Hearing this, Ji Ku and Yin both looked at him in confusion. "Senior brother Tianxing, are you going to Central State? Big brother Tianxing, why are you going to Central State?" Ji Tianxing said solemnly, "In a few days I'll go to Central State and find a way to enter the Imperial Residence. Only by entering the Imperial Residence can I be recognized by Cloud Soul Palace and be worthy of eldest senior sister. The Imperial Residence is the most mysterious and powerful holy land of martial arts in Central State. Only the top geniuses of various clans." After listening to his explanation, Ji Ku and Yin understood the whole story. Ji Ku said without hesitation, "Big brother Tianxing, I want to go to Central State with you. No matter where you go, I'll go with you." Ji Tianxing frowned slightly and was about to dissuade him. At this time, Yin also hurriedly said, "Senior brother Tianxing, you can't leave me alone. I want to go to Central State with you." Ji Tianxing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He reached out and touched Yin-er's head and asked, "Yin, I'm going to Central State to fulfill my promise and clear my name. Why are you going to Central State with me? Do you also want to enter the Imperial Residence?" Yin looked up at him with innocent eyes and asked doubtfully, "Can I? Central State is so prosperous and prosperous. and the Imperial Residence is a holy land of martial arts. Of course, I want to go and experience it and pursue a more profound martial arts realm. Ji Tianxing was startled for a moment. Only then did he remember that Yen was not only the crown prince of the Fire Clan, but also had two heavenly bloodlines. With Yen Er's talent to reach the origin core realm at the age of 11, he was also a rare top genius. If he wanted to enter the Imperial Residence, it shouldn't be too difficult. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing couldn't help but chuckle. I forgot that Yen Er, you are the #1 genius of our sect. It won't be difficult for you to enter the Imperial Residence. However, your parents entrusted you to master and let you cultivate in the sky-bearing sect. If you want to go to Central State, you can't make the decision on your own. You have to report to Master and your parents first and ask for their permission. Yen pursed his lips and nodded. Okay, then I'll send a message to my parents later and ask for their opinion first. As for Master, I can only wait for him to finish healing and then report to him. And that's right. Ji Tianxing nodded with a smile and looked at Ji Ku again. Ku, although Central State is prosperous and the martial arts realm is prosperous, there are various forces mixed in and it will be more dangerous. I have a reason to go to Central State, but I don't want you to take risks with me. It will be safer for you to stay in the sky-bearing sect. Ji Ku didn't listen to his dissuasion. She looked at him firmly and said in an unquestionable tone, Big Brother Tianxing, Ku can listen to you about anything except this. From the day I left the Clear Sky Empire with you, I have already sworn in my heart that I will follow you for the rest of my life. No matter where you go, I will follow you. Even if it is a mountain of swords and a sea of flames, I will not shrink back. Ji Tianxing looked at her persistent eyes and didn't know how to persuade her for a while. Ji Ku continued, Big Brother Tianxing, I know myself. With my talent, I may not be able to enter the Monarch Mansion. However, I don't have extravagant hopes of entering the Monarch Mansion, nor do I want to become a top genius. I just want to go to Central State with you. I'm satisfied to be able to accompany you. Since Ji Ku had already said so, what else could Ji Tianxing say? He could only nod with complicated feelings and said, Ku, since you have made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. Don't worry, I won't leave you alone. When I leave, I will definitely take you with me to Central State. Seeing that he finally agreed, Ji Ku's face was full of smiles and her heart was filled with joy. Regarding the matter of going to Central State, the three of them decided. Not long after, the three of them bid farewell to each other and returned to their respective residences. Ji Tianxing entered the secret chamber to recuperate while Yen quickly sent a message to the Fire Emperor and Fire Empress to ask for their opinion. Chapter 489. Soon, 5 days had passed. During these 5 days, Ji Tianxing had been recuperating in the secret room. Since he had fused with the Nirvana divine crystal, his injuries and strength had completely recovered. Moreover, his soul had become even stronger, and his soul energy was surging, causing his mind and spiritual sense to become even stronger. The spiritual sense of an ordinary 9th-level origin core martial artist could only explore an area of 90 meters. His soul energy was even stronger, and the range of his spiritual sense was twice as much as a martial artist of the same level. Most importantly, the battle with the Devil Emperor and the experience of his soul being separated from his body had stimulated an even stronger potential. His strength had imperceptibly increased, and he was getting closer and closer to the Heaven Origin stage. However, the shackle between the Origin Core stage and the Heaven Origin stage was a hurdle that countless martial artists were unable to cross. Ji Tianxing was unable to determine when he would be able to break through the shackle and advance to the Heaven Origin stage. He guessed in his heart that he might need an opportunity to advance to the Heaven Origin stage. This morning, his essence, energy, and spirit had all recovered to their peak state, so he finished recuperating and walked out of the secret room. He had just walked out of the secret room when the black-robed guard guarding outside respectfully reported a piece of news. Tianxing, Lord Sect Master has already come out of seclusion last night. Lord Sect Master has instructed you to go to the study to see him after you come out of seclusion. Suddenly hearing this news, Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment, and a trace of surprise flashed through his eyes. Master has only been in seclusion for 3 months, and he actually came out of seclusion so quickly? Could it be that his injuries have already healed? That's great. He felt puzzled in his heart, but he also felt gratified and excited. Presently, the Sky Pillar sect situation was not stable yet, and they were extremely short on manpower. It was difficult to support it with just Xiang Wuji alone. If Chu Tianxing's injuries were healed, he would be able to regain the authority of the sect master and manage the various affairs of the sect. That was naturally excellent. Ji Tianxing hurriedly left the secret room and quickly rushed to the study in Sky Pillar Hall. After a short while, he entered the spacious, bright, clean, and elegant study and saw Chu Tiansheng, whom he had not seen for a long time. Chu Tiansheng, wearing a golden robe, was sitting at his desk, reading through the papers, concentrating on handling the affairs of the sect. His face was still a little pale, as if he had just recovered from a serious illness. His eyes were also a little dim, not as sharp and dignified as before. Furthermore, he still had a head full of white hair. Ji Tianxing stepped into the study and cupped his hands in salute. Disciple pays respect to master. When Chu Tiansheng heard his voice, he quickly put down the things in his hands and turned his head to look at him. Tianxing, come in quickly. Master has been waiting for you for a long time. Chu Tiansheng smiled amiably and waved at him. Ji Tianxing walked to the desk and asked with concern, Shizuan, why did you come out early? Have your injuries healed? Chu Tiansheng lightly shook his head, his tone calm as he said, while your master was in seclusion healing in the immortal cave, I was worried about our sect's safety, so after stabilizing my injuries, I came out of seclusion ahead of time. Although your master's injuries haven't healed completely, it's not a big problem. After another year of recuperation, I'll be completely healed. After saying this, he looked at Ji Tianxing with shining eyes, his face full of praise. I didn't think that in the 3 months that your master was in seclusion, our sect would encounter such a monstrous calamity. If you hadn't turned the tide and forced the Demon Emperor to retreat, our sect would have been annihilated a long time ago. Tianxing, your performance was just too shocking. Your master can't believe it. Obviously, after Chu Tiansheng came out of seclusion, he had already understood what had happened. His pale face was full of smiles, his eyes full of gratification and pride. Ji Tianxing said calmly, Shizuan, those things are already in the past. Moreover, it wasn't just me who forced the Demon Emperor to retreat. Hundreds of people in our sect worked together to seriously injure the Demon Emperor, forcing him to flee. Chu Tiansheng raised his hand to interrupt him, his voice firm. Tianxing, you don't need to be humble. You are the hero who saved our sect and the heavenly stellar region. After pausing for a moment, he continued, After your master came out of seclusion, I already talked to the Grand Elder. I also know that you were seriously injured and on the verge of death. Yin Yao brought you back to Cloud Soul Palace. I heard the Grand Elder say that you were preparing to head to Central State and enter the Monarch Palace? Ji Tianxing nodded. Sure, Zuin. I was just about to report this to you and ask for your opinion. Chu Tianxing smiled. You have a reason to go to the Monarch Palace, so why would your master stop you? Moreover, if you enter the Monarch Palace, not only will you have a brighter future, you will also gain the recognition of Cloud Soul Palace. Your master and the Grand Elder have the same thoughts. We both support your decision to head to Central State and enter the Monarch Palace. Thank you, Shizuan, for your help. Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and bowed. Chu Tiansheng waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need to be so polite. He said with some emotion, Back then, your master used the star map to predict that our sect would encounter a great calamity and your master would die. Therefore, your master made arrangements in advance, hoping to help you fight for a chance to survive. Your master only thought that even if the sect was destroyed and I died in the calamity, it was nothing. As long as you, Yin Yao, and Yin could survive and head to Central State to grow and gain experience, you would have a chance to take revenge in the future. However, man proposes, God disposes. I didn't expect that as soon as your master's plan was carried out, the demon clan would assassinate me, and I had to go into seclusion to heal. Not long after, the calamity broke out, and the demon emperor also broke the seal. Ji Tianxing listened to Chu Tianxing's words and frowned in confusion. Shizhuan, you had a plan to let us leave the sect and head to Central State? Chu Tianxing nodded. That's right. You should remember that your master once asked you to go to the Beast King Valley to deliver something to the Beast King. In fact, your master wanted to ask the Beast King to take care of you and ask him to go to Central State first to make preparations. After he is ready in Central State, your master will let you leave the sect and go to Central State to find him. Hearing this, Ji Tianxing came to a sudden realization. He finally understood. No wonder before the great calamity broke out, Shizhuan asked me to go to the Beast King Valley to deliver something to the Beast King. It turns out that Shizhuan had predicted that he would die in battle and that the Sky Pillar sect would be destroyed. Therefore, he had already made preparations and thought of a way out for us. Unfortunately, the development of things later exceeded Shizhuan's expectations and control, so he couldn't carry out his plan smoothly. Ji Tianxing stared at Chu Tianxing and asked, Shizhuan, that senior Beast King, is he still in Central State? Chu Tianxing nodded and said, of course he is in Central State, and he is ready. In 2 days, you, Yin'er, Ji Ku, and the others will go to Central State to find the Beast King. You are very unfamiliar with Central State, so it will be inconvenient for you to do things. Only with the Beast King taking care of you can your master be at ease. Chapter 490. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin Er's trip to the Central State obtained Chu Tianxing's approval. This matter was put on the agenda. Chu Tianxing's meaning was to wait for 10 days before Ji Tianxing's group of 3 set off. Because before Ji Tianxing went to the Central State, the Sky Pillar sect still needed him to do something big. That was to restore and rebuild the 9-Dragon Spirit Vein Grand Formation. As long as the Grand Formation wasn't activated, the Sky Pillar sect wouldn't be safe, and the disciples would always feel uneasy in their hearts. Moreover, without the protection of the 9-Dragon Spirit Vein Grand Formation, the Sky Pillar sect spirit energy was extremely thin. Ji Tianxing had considered this matter long ago. Since Chu Tianxing brought it up first, he naturally wouldn't refuse. The master and disciple discussed for a moment before deciding to start the operation 2 days later. Ji Tianxing bid farewell to Chu Tianxing and left the study. After returning to his residence, he entered the secret chamber to circulate his cultivation and continue comprehending the 8th level of the Sword Heart Tao. He had already stayed at the 9th level of the Origin Core stage for 3 months, yet there were no signs of breaking through to the Sky Origin stage. If he wanted to advance to the Sky Origin stage, there were only 2 paths he could take. One was to cultivate bitterly day and night and use the method of dripping water to slowly break through the shackles of the Sky Origin stage. Or he could encounter some opportunity and obtain some good fortune and naturally reach the Sky Origin stage. However, opportunities and good fortune were illusory and unpredictable and could only be encountered by chance and not sought. Ji Tianxing didn't expect to rely on good fortune to break through to the Sky Origin stage, as that was too unrealistic. What he could do was to cultivate diligently and allow his martial Tao foundation to be even more stable and his strength to be even more profound. Ji Tianxing sat upright in the secret chamber and concentrated on circulating his cultivation. He saw the spirit energy of heaven and earth from all directions surging over like flowing clouds and swiftly pouring into his body. His temperament was steady like a boulder, yet also like an abyss vortex that naturally devoured the spirit energy of heaven and earth and transformed it into boundless true essence in his body. Since he experienced the calamity of his body and soul being separated, his body had undergone a subtle change, and his aptitude and potential were even more perfect. His fleshly body was on the verge of collapse, but he came back from the dead. His reborn body was even more powerful than before. Both his strength and defense had doubled. Moreover, it was as transparent as a piece of spirit jade and was constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After his soul had been severely injured, it had healed, and after fusing with the nirvana, divine crystal, it had become even more powerful. Not only was his spiritual sense stronger than that of ordinary martial artists, but he could also directly communicate with and control the spirit chi of heaven and earth, which made his cultivation speed and absorption of spirit chi faster. The amount of heaven and earth spirit chi he absorbed in a single day of cultivation was equivalent to 5 days of cultivation for a martial artist of the same realm. Ji Tianxing understood that this was the legendary unity of heaven and man. Only Sky Origin Stage cultivators could reach such a level of martial arts. The cultivation of martial arts was actually a process of strengthening the body, exploring and comprehending the heaven and earth. When martial artists cultivated, absorbed heaven and earth spirit chi, set up great arrays, and so on, they were all absorbing the energy of all things in the world. For martial artists who had yet to reach Sky Origin Stage, it was a little troublesome to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. They needed to meditate and breathe, or even use arrays and elixirs, etc. However, Sky Origin Stage martial artists were different. Their bodies had long been developed and strengthened to the limit, becoming perfect and transparent. They could naturally communicate with and absorb the heaven and earth spirit chi. When martial artists' bodies were in harmony with heaven and earth, they could freely absorb and control the heaven and earth spirit chi. This was the so-called unity of heaven and man. Ji Tianxing's strength had yet to reach Sky Origin Stage. However, he had already reached the unity of heaven and man realm and had a perfect body comparable to a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. This was simply a miracle. Compared to his previous experience of having his body and soul separated and almost losing his life, this could be considered a blessing in disguise. Very quickly, 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. After 2 days of cultivation, Ji Tianxing's strength had increased a little, and his skills had become more profound. He stopped cultivating, left the secret room, and rushed to the Sky Raising Palace. When he entered the Sky Raising Palace, Chu Tiansheng, Xiang Wuji, and a few other elders were already waiting in the main hall. Seeing him arrive, Chu Tiansheng said with a solemn expression, "Since everyone is here, I will announce an important matter. In the next few days, our sect will restore the spirit vein array and rebuild the 9 dragon spirit veins. This is related to our sect's 1,000 years of foundation, so we cannot afford to be careless or negligent. This time, the Grand Elder and Tianxing will work together to set up the spirit vein array. All the other elders will need to do their best to help." Hearing Chu Tianxing's order, the elders naturally hurriedly cupped their hands and bowed, indicating that they would obey. However, one of the elders hesitated and asked doubtfully, "Sect Master, we have all seen Tianxing's strength and battle prowess. However, our 9 dragon spirit vein array is a high-level Sky Origin array. It is very complicated and mysterious. Tianxing's strength has yet to reach Sky Origin Stage. I'm afraid it will be difficult for him to take charge of the array." Chu Tiansheng raised his eyebrows and revealed a playful smile. He explained, "Tianxing may not have reached Sky Origin Stage, but his attainments in Array Dao are already at the Grandmaster stage. Back then, it was he who broke the Dragon Mountain Ancient Tombs protective array. That's a top-notch Tianyuan Grand formation. Even I and the Grand Supreme Elder are helpless against it. Tianxing's attainments in Array Dao have already surpassed mine. He can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Grand Elder. Is there anything wrong with letting him take part in setting up the array?" The Elder immediately smiled embarrassedly and hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized. "Please forgive me, Sect Master. It was my negligence." Then he cast an apologetic look at Ji Tianxing. Although Ji Tianxing was only the Sect Master's disciple, he was now the great hero who saved the Sky-bearing sect and Tianqian region. All the elders in the sect were extremely respectful to him. At this time, Xiang Wuji spoke again. "I have already prepared all the materials needed to restore the spirit vein array. If no one has any objections, then let's start today." Then, everyone left the Sky-bearing palace and began to set up the array. The spirit vein array was led by Xiang Wuji and Ji Tianxing, with Chu Tiansheng and the 7 elders assisting from the side. Ji Tianxing and Xiang Wuji flew to the sky above the red cloud peak. They stood in the sky with a serious expression, overlooking the entire sect. Chu Tiansheng and the 7 elders were scattered to the other 8 peaks to assist Ji Tianxing and Xiang Wuji. Not long after, Ji Tianxing and Xiang Wuji began to move. The two of them waved their hands and scattered thousands of spiritual crystals and gems. They placed them on the peaks according to the array's position, setting up the array's foundation. Then, the two of them continuously waved their palms, creating dazzling true essence flowers in the sky, connecting the 9 peaks with invisible veins. Chu Tiansheng and the 7 elders also became busy. They did their best to set up the array's foundation and stabilize the array's veins. Restoring and rebuilding the spirit vein array was an extremely complicated and vast project. Even with Ji Tianxing and Xiang Wuji's strength, it took them a total of 9 days and 9 nights to set up the spirit vein array successfully. After 9 days, the two of them had exhausted all their strength and were extremely tired and weak. Chu Tiansheng and the 7 elders were also mentally and physically exhausted, both physically and mentally. Fortunately, the spirit vein array was successfully rebuilt. Soon, the 9-dragon spirit vein would be formed again, allowing the sky-bearing sect to quickly recover. Many brothers asked Little He about the martial realms in the book. Little He listed them out for everyone to take a look. There were 5 realms above the Heaven Origin Realm, Soul Refinement Realm, Essence Soul Realm, 9 Tribulation Realm, Martial Sage Realm, and Martial God Realm. Chapter 491. Ji Tianxing could finally leave with peace of mind now that the spirit vein grand formation had been rebuilt. He returned to the secret chamber and recuperated for 5 whole days. After 5 days, his strength had recovered to its peak state. Only then did he take Ji Ku and Yin and prepare to leave for the middle state. Early in the morning, Chu Tiansheng, Xiang Wuji, and a few other elders gathered at the top of the Crimson Cloud Peak to send them off. Even many deacons and disciples rushed over when they heard the news. They gathered at the square in front of the hall and waved their hands reluctantly. Before they left, Chu Tiansheng and Xiang Wuji gave Ji Tianxing and the others earnest advice. Tianxing, when you reach the middle state, you must protect yourself and learn more. Under the care of the Beast King, you must adapt to the environment of the middle state as soon as possible. The middle state is the holy land of martial arts. It is vast and filled with experts. For you, it is the most magnificent stage, but also the most difficult challenge. Don't be impatient. First, stand firm in the middle state, then slowly plan for the future. Even if you go to the middle state, don't forget about the Sky Pillar sect. You must remember that we will always be behind you and silently support you. This old man will wait for the day when you become famous and return with honor. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin remembered their advice. After a while, the 3 of them bowed to Chu Tiansheng and the others and left the Crimson Cloud Peak on their spirit beasts. Chu Tiansheng, Xiang Wuji, and the others stood at the square in front of the hall for a long time. Everyone looked on reluctantly as Ji Tianxing and the others disappeared into the horizon. Only then did they disperse. Qian Yu carried Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku and sped through the sky, heading north. Yin rode on the wildfire white tiger and sped through the mountains and rivers, following closely behind Qian Yu. Qian Yu and the white tiger traveled day and night, only stopping once every 3 days to rest and recover their strength. In this way, it would take them more than a month to reach the middle state from the Star Ancient Realm. Among the 3 of them, apart from Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin had never been to Zhongzhou. They were filled with curiosity and yearning for the mysterious central continent, and their hearts were filled with longing. Of course, they had never left their homes and gone to such a faraway place, so they couldn't help but feel a little uneasy. However, When Jiku and Yenner had such thoughts, their hearts would calm down as long as they saw Ji Tianqing's figure. Ji Tianqing's expression was calm and determined. His temperament was indifferent and calm, which always made them feel safe and at ease. As long as Ji Tianqing was by their side, they were fearless and full of hope for the future. Time flew by. Very quickly, 1.5 months had passed. Ji Tianqing and the other two had traveled for 45 days. They had passed through quite a few human territories and crossed thousands of mountains and rivers before they finally arrived at the central province. That evening, the sun was setting in the west. Qianyu was flying high in the sky, and Ji Tianqing and Ji Ku were sitting cross-legged on its back. Both of them looked tired, and their brows were filled with exhaustion. Ji Tianqing was resting with his eyes closed, silently absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to recover his strength. Ji Ku opened her big, clear eyes, looking down at the mountains and rivers below, admiring the magnificent scenery of the central province. At this time, she saw a vast and flat plain in front of her. On the vast and boundless land, a huge black city appeared. She looked down from the sky and saw that the city was very majestic and magnificent. She could feel the vigorous atmosphere blowing in her face. The huge city covered at least a few hundred miles in radius, and she couldn't see the end of it at a glance. The most peculiar thing was that the city was actually circular. During their journey, Jiku had seen many ancient cities of the central province. Those cities were all squarish and normal. As for the huge city in front of them, not only was it several times larger than a normal city, it was also circular in shape. Jiku looked at the huge city curiously and couldn't help but ask, "Big brother Tianqing, look at the city in front of us. It seems a little strange." Ji Tianqing, who was resting with his eyes closed, opened his eyes and looked forward calmly. When he saw the huge black city, a smile flashed across his eyes, and he said, "It has a radius of 800 miles, and the city is huge and round. It symbolizes stability in all directions and benefits the 4 seas. Cuckoo, we have arrived. That is the #1 holy city in the profound sky continent, the central province city." When Ji Ku heard this, her beautiful face immediately revealed a look of surprise and anticipation. So this is the legendary central province city, the gathering place of all the strong people in the world. No wonder I felt that the city was a little strange. It has a vigorous and ancient aura, leaving a deep impression. Ji Tianqing nodded and said calmly, "Master said that the Beast King had arrived in the central province city a few months ago and had already prepared everything. After we enter the central province city, we will first find the Beast King and meet up with him." Not long after, Qianyu descended from the sky and landed in front of the 100-jong tall southern city gate. Ji Tianqing, Ji Ku, and Yer stood side by side on a straight and wide bluestone road, looking at the central province city in front of them. They saw that this ancient city with nearly 10,000 years of history quietly stood in a vast world. The black city wall was 100 jong tall and was built with huge black stones. Its surface was covered with wind and frost carvings and the marks of time. Above the 100 jong tall city gate, there were 3 simple and strong words carved on the stone wall of the city wall. Central Province City. The bluestone road under their feet extended all the way to the huge city gate. The 100-meter wide city gate was guarded by dozens of black armored guards on both sides. Those guards had ramrod-straight figures, icy cold and indifferent expressions, and their entire bodies emitted a dignified and murderous aura. Ji Tianqing noticed with a few glances that the strengths of those black armor guards had all reached the 7th level of the profound convergence stage, or above. The 2 captains of the guards that were dressed as captains had strengths that had reached the 5th level of the origin core stage. 5th level origin core stage martial artists could be called experts in the 9 regions of the southern continent. Whereas in the sacred land of martial arts, the central province, a 5th level origin core stage martial artist could only be called an expert and be a captain of the city guard. Of course, with these black armored guards guarding the city gate, The martial artists of the various clans that entered and left the central province city were all well-behaved and would absolutely not dare cause trouble. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yen'er walked along the bluestone road towards the city gate. Although they brought along Qian Yu and the wildfire white tiger, these two spirit beasts had enormous figures that were extremely conspicuous. But the martial artists that entered and left the central province city mostly rode on spirit beasts. Those spirit beasts had all sorts of strange appearances, and there were all sorts of clans, causing them to be even more conspicuous. However, everyone had calm and indifferent expressions. Obviously, they'd long since become accustomed to it. After a short moment, Ji Tianxing's group of 3 passed through the city gate and entered the central province city. They walked on the wide and perfectly straight street and saw countless experts in the martial Dao, and there were also Xeno-race martial artists with strange appearances. On both sides of the street were row upon row of tall buildings and palaces, and there were also shops that were filled with a dazzling lineup in various strange places. Chapter 492. Ji Tianxing's group of 3 walked around the city as they observed their surroundings. It was truly an eye-opening experience. In this ancient and majestic city, not only were there many humans living here, there were also some demon race and water race martial artists. The 3 of them strolled around the city for an hour and saw many foreign race martial artists. On the surface, these foreign race martial artists looked somewhat similar to humans. However, their clothes clearly carried a rough and valiant foreign race aura, making it easy for people to distinguish them. Some of the demon race martial artists had hair of different colors. Their bodies were tall and sturdy, as thick and sturdy as wild beasts. They only wore animal skin aprons and waistcoats, revealing their thick hair and muscular limbs. There were also some water race martial artists. All of them had golden hair, their eyes were blue in color, and their bodies were tall and slender. They also wore long robes or leather armor like humans, but if one looked carefully, they would find that their arms and necks were covered with a layer of fine scales. Ji Tianxing's group even saw the legendary dwarf race. Those sturdy dwarves, regardless of gender or age, were all less than half a meter tall. Most of them used short axes as weapons and liked to grow full beards, tying their beards into a dozen small braids. Ji Tianxing's group of 3 became more and more curious the more they looked. Every time they saw a foreign race, they would take a few more looks. However, all of this, to the people of Central State City, could not be more normal. When Yen'er and Ji Ku curiously stared at these foreign race cultivators, these foreign race cultivators didn't feel embarrassed or angry. There were even some foreign race martial artists who smiled at them, making them feel a little embarrassed. The 3 of them strolled around the city for an hour and were dazzled by all kinds of strange things. They had long been shocked to the point of numbness. Ji Ku said with a heart full of joy, "Big Brother Tianxing, Central State City is really, as the legends say, strange and colorful, mysterious and vast. This place is too interesting." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a smile, "This is the holy land of martial arts in the profound sky continent. Naturally, martial artists of various races will gather here, as well as many martial arts experts. Once we find the Beast King and settle down in the city, you can wander around as much as you want. At that time, you will definitely discover more amazing people and things." Yen'er hurriedly nodded and said expectantly, "Well, then let's go find the Beast King." Ji Tianxing didn't waste any more time. He brought Ji Ku and Yen'er to the Fish Dragon Alley in South City. Before coming to Central State, Chu Tianxing had told him to go to Fish Dragon Alley's Cool Breeze Courtyard to find the Beast King. The 3 of them had just arrived in Central State City, so they were very unfamiliar with the layout of the city. They spent about 2 hours asking the passersby, several times, before they finally found the Fish Dragon Alley. The Fish Dragon Alley was located at the edge of the southern part of the city. It was not as bustling as the city. The surroundings of the alley were quiet and secluded. The stone path was clean and elegant, and the roadside was filled with tall spiritual trees, spiritual flowers, and spiritual herbs. Walking in the Fish Dragon Alley, one could only feel that the spiritual energy was abundant and the environment was elegant, making one feel relaxed and happy. There were a total of 6 mansions on both sides of the Fish Dragon Alley. That was more than one. 5 kilometers long. All of them were mansions that occupied a large area and had a magnificent aura. Moreover, Ji Tianxing could see that every mansion was protected by the Heaven Origin Grand Formation that set up layers of restrictions and checkpoints. Even if there were no guards guarding the entrance of the mansion, nobody could easily enter the mansion. The Cool Breeze Courtyard was located in the deepest part of the Fish Dragon Alley. This mansion was similar to the other 5 mansions. It occupied an area of 1,000 meters with a dignified aura, and the environment was quiet and secluded. When the 3 of them walked to the entrance of the Cool Breeze Courtyard, they saw a human guard in a black robe at the entrance. The guard actually had a strength at the 3rd level of the Origin Core stage. His eyes were bright, and his aura was extremely valiant and cold. Ji Tianxing walked to the entrance and talked to the black robe guard, explaining his identity and the purpose of his visit. The black robe guard asked for a moment before he entered the courtyard to report the news. After a short moment, a series of heavy footsteps sounded from the courtyard. Subsequently, a snow-white 6-armed white ape that was over 10 feet tall arrived at the entrance. When the 6-armed white ape saw Ji Tianxing, it revealed a kind expression and nodded to him in greeting. "Young man, we meet again." Ji Tianxing greeted it as well. "White ape, I didn't expect you to come to Central State City as well. Yes, I'm not only the Beast King's disciple, but also his servant. Of course, I have to follow him," the white ape explained. "The entrance isn't a place to talk. Come in quickly. The Beast King has been waiting for you for a long time." Subsequently, the white ape led Ji Tianxing and the other 2 into the Cool Breeze Courtyard. The courtyard's environment was elegant. Not only did it have a garden and a small lake, but it also had pavilions, terraces, and waterside pavilions. It was rather elegant and otherworldly. The white ape led Ji Tianxing and the other 2 through 2 courtyards and entered the last main courtyard. The 3 of them waited in the guest hall for a moment before the Beast King rushed over to meet them after hearing the news. The Beast King still looked the same as before. He was tall and thin, wore a white robe, and had gray hair and a long beard. He had the demeanor of an otherworldly expert. After entering the guest hall, he exchanged some pleasantries with Ji Tianxing and the other 2 before taking a seat. The Beast King looked at Ji Tianxing with bright eyes and said with a sigh, "Nephew Tianxing, your master has told this old man about what happened to the Sky Pillar sect in detail. This old man really didn't expect that the Sky Pillar sect would suffer such a calamity and almost be destroyed in the war. But what surprised this old man even more was that nephew actually grew up so quickly. When the sect encountered such a calamity, you were able to stand up and repel the demon emperor. This is simply inconceivable." Ji Tianxing nodded with an indifferent expression and said in a calm voice, "Senior Beast King, this matter has already passed for several months, so there's no need to mention it. Now that the 3 of us have come to Central State, we hope that Senior can take care of us in the future." The Beast King stroked his beard and said with an amiable smile, "Nephew is too polite. This old man and your master are life and death friends. Since he entrusted the 3 of you to this old man, how could this old man not do his best to take care of you?" Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and said, "Since that's the case, I will have to trouble Senior." The Beast King nodded and said in a gentle tone, "Nephew, you must be very tired after rushing to Central State City. This old man has already prepared a place for you to stay. You should first settle down and rest. After you recover your strength, this old man will take you around the city to adapt to the environment as soon as possible." Ji Tianxing didn't immediately agree. After thinking for a moment, he asked, "Senior, my master must have already told you that I came to Central State this time to join the Monarch Mansion. Senior, please tell me about the Monarch Mansion so that I can prepare." Chapter 493. The Beast King looked at Ji Tianxing and said in a serious tone, "The Monarch Mansion is the most mysterious and powerful institution in the Central State. It is also the most sacred place of martial arts in the Tianxian continent. I believe Tianxing already knows about this, right?" Ji Tianxing nodded and did not say anything. He listened quietly. The Beast King continued, "There is no need for me to elaborate on the power and mystery of the Monarch Mansion. I believe you already know. You only need to know that even the imperial courts of the Human Clan, Demon Clan, and Water Clan fear and respect the Monarch Mansion. You can understand how high the status of the Monarch Mansion is. As the saying goes, great hermits hide in the city. The Monarch Mansion that is extremely mysterious in the eyes of ordinary people is actually in the Central State City. However, the Monarch Mansion is in an alternate space, just like the ancient realm of the Heavenly Stellar region. The entrance to the alternate space is near the Forest of Divine Steels in the city. Although there's no one guarding there, there's a mysterious barrier set up. No one can enter without permission. Only the Divine Masters and Princes of the Monarch Mansion are qualified to enter and leave the Monarch Mansion freely." Hearing this, Ji Tianxing could not help but raise his eyebrows and asked in confusion, "May I ask, Senior, what is the meaning of Divine Masters and Princes?" The Beast King explained slowly. Although the Monarch Mansion is the #1 sacred place of martial arts in the continent, there are not many people in it. It is said that there is a Mansion Master, 10 Divine Masters, and more than 50 princes. The Mansion Master of the Monarch Mansion is recognized as the #1 elite warrior in the continent. However, that Mansion Master's whereabouts were mysterious. He was elusive, and the number of people who had seen his true appearance could be counted on one hand. He has not appeared for nearly 100 years. The things in the Monarch Mansion are all managed by the 10 Divine Masters. The 10 Divine Masters are all elite warriors of the refined soul stage. They each have their own duties and teach the cultivation of more than 50 princes. Each genius who enters the Monarch Mansion to cultivate is called princes to show their respect and dignity. When those princes surpass the heavenly yuan stage and reach the refined soul stage, they will receive the title of emperor. Each princes are the top talents of their respective clans. They come from the most powerful families and forces of their respective clans. Their status is unparalleled, and they can move freely in the Tianxin continent. The powerful forces of the various races would not easily offend them, and would even think of ways to rope them in. It's because if those princes do not die prematurely, they will certainly become elite warriors at the refined soul stage. They will be all-powerful and look down on the Tianxin land. After listening to the Beast King's narration, not only did Ji Tianxing yearn for it, but even Yin and Ji Ku were overwhelmed with emotions. They were rather envious and respectful. Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment before he said, "I didn't expect that the #1 martial Dao Holy Land on the continent would only accept 50 princes. From the looks of it, those 50-plus princes are the top geniuses of the entire continent." The Beast King nodded in agreement. "That's right. On the Tianxin land, there were countless geniuses from different clans. However, only the most outstanding 50 people were qualified to enter the Monarch Mansion. Nephew Tianxing, entering the Monarch Mansion is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. You must be mentally prepared." Ji Tianxing nodded to show that he understood and asked, "Senior, did you find out when the Imperial Monarch Mansion will be recruiting the Imperial Princes? If one wants to enter, what are the requirements?" The Beast King nodded slightly and said with a serious tone, "The Imperial Monarch Mansion will not take the initiative to recruit the Imperial Princes, and there is no set time for the examination. As long as the geniuses from different clans meet the basic requirements of the Imperial Monarch Mansion, they can hand in their visiting cards at any time and accept the examination." Ji Tianxing revealed a trace of expectation and asked, "What are the basic requirements of the Imperial Monarch Mansion?" The Beast King extended 2 fingers and said with a sonorous tone, "There are only 3 requirements. First, you must have strength above the Yuan dance stage. Second, you must have 1 or more heavenly bloodlines. Third, you must not be over 30 years old." When Ji Tianxing heard this, he instantly frowned in confusion. These 3 requirements seem very high, but they are not too rare. He also nodded in agreement and said with a face full of expectation, "If that's the case, I also meet the basic requirements." The Beast King stroked his beard and nodded. "That's right. In the Central State, There are at least 8,000 people with heavenly bloodlines and Yuan Dan stage strength under the age of 30. But among these geniuses, only 50 or so people can stand out and become the emperor of the Imperial Monarch Mansion. Because the basic requirements of the Imperial Monarch Mansion are not too high, but the entrance examination is very harsh. If you want to become the emperor, not only must you have a strong identity and background, you must also defeat a certain emperor. Hearing this, Yin was immediately disappointed and muttered with a bitter face. To have a strong identity and background, you still have to defeat an emperor? Then I definitely have no hope. Ji Tianxing also frowned and said in a serious tone, "This examination method is indeed harsh. Every emperor is a top genius and must be very strong. If anyone can defeat an emperor, they are indeed qualified to become the new emperor. The examination method of the Imperial Monarch Mansion is harsh, but also very reasonable." At this time, Yenner frowned and thought for a moment and asked doubtfully, "Senior Beast King, what if a certain emperor has a close relationship with the challenger and deliberately loses to the challenger?" The Beast King chuckled and shook his head. "This is absolutely impossible. When a challenger fights with the emperor, there will be a god master present to supervise the battle. If the situation you mentioned occurs, not only will the challenger be disqualified, but the emperor will also be expelled from the Imperial Monarch Mansion. Moreover, every emperor's son was a prodigy, a future overlord. They have noble identities, strong backgrounds, and powerful strength. Of course, they cherish their wings and will not destroy their own reputation." Yin nodded to show that she understood and did not interrupt. Ji Tianxing thought for a moment and asked the Beast King, "Senior, since the examination of the Imperial Monarch Mansion is so harsh, then the 50 or so disciples should all be Heaven Origin stage experts, right?" The Beast King shook his head and said in a playful tone, "This is not necessarily the case. There are very few people who, although not Heaven Origin stage experts, can become the emperor with a strong enough identity and background. For example, the descendants of the imperial court and the direct descendants of the ancient families may be accepted by the Imperial Monarch Mansion." When Ji Tianxing heard the words ancient families, he naturally thought of the Cloud Spirit Palace. He thought to himself, "I wonder if eldest senior sister will enter the Imperial Monarch Mansion." The Beast King saw that he was silent and looked a little serious, so he smiled and comforted him. "Tianxing, there's no hurry to enter the Imperial Monarch Mansion. I suggest you rest for a few days and then slowly plan this matter in the future. Anyway, you're still young. Even if you wait for another 3 to 5 years, you won't exceed the deadline." Hee. The Beast King made a joke to comfort Ji Tianxing. However, he did not know that Ji Tianxing only wanted to enter the Imperial Monarch Mansion as soon as possible so that he could see Yun Yao as soon as possible. Brothers, please remember to vote for me, please. Chapter 494. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yin settled down in the Qingfeng courtyard. Although the courtyard was very big, there were not many people living in it. Other than the Beast King, White Ape, the guards, and Ji Tianxing, there were only 20 servants and maids. As a result, the Qingfeng courtyard was very quiet and peaceful. It was very suitable for living and cultivation. The heaven and earth spirit qi in the central state was incomparably dense, and a powerful spirit gathering formation was set up in the Qingfeng courtyard. Everyone lived in the Qingfeng courtyard, and their cultivation speed was faster than in the sky-bearing sect. Unknowingly, 4 days passed in a flash. After 4 days of recuperation, Ji Tianxing and the other two recovered their strength and returned to their peak state. At the same time, Ji Tianxing gradually learned about the Central State City. The Central State was located in the center of the Tianxian continent. It was very vast and rich in resources. In the vast Central State, there were all kinds of races living. There were at least tens of thousands of cities. The southern region was under the jurisdiction of the human imperial court. In those cities and villages, the people living there were basically humans. There were very few foreign races. The eastern region was naturally under the jurisdiction of the water race imperial court. The western region was undoubtedly the territory of the demon race Imperial Court, and the Central State City was located in the center of the Central State. It was also the center of the entire Tian continent. It was a truly peaceful and neutral land. No matter what race they were, they could live in the Central State City. As long as they did not violate the laws of the Central State City, they would not be in any danger. On the surface, the Central State City was under the jurisdiction of the City Lord's Mansion, but everyone in the city knew that the monarch's mansion was the master of the city. In fact, the entire Central State was under the jurisdiction of the monarch's mansion. If the monarch's mansion had any orders or announcements, the various imperial courts would not dare to neglect or violate them. In short, the Central State City was worthy of being the #1 sacred city in the Tian continent. Its status was extraordinary and profound. On the morning of the 5th day, the three of them left the Qingfeng courtyard and strolled around the city. The Beast King wanted to send White Ape with them as a guide to help them familiarize themselves with the situation in the city. However, Ji Tianxing had other plans, so he rejected the Beast King's good intentions. He brought Ji Ku and Yin out of Qingfeng courtyard. He asked passers-by about the location of the Forest of Divine Monuments and rushed there. This was because he was still thinking about the imperial residence and wanted to personally go to the Forest of Divine Monuments to take a look. The three of them strolled around at a leisurely pace, as they felt the great vicissitudes of Central State City's atmosphere and strange and variegated scenery. Their moods also became much more relaxed. 4 hours later, Ji Tianxing and the other two arrived at the vicinity of the Divine Steel Forest. The Forest of Divine Steels was located near the plaza in the middle of the city. It was a forest of steels with a radius of several thousand meters. In the forest of steels that looked like a cemetery, there were tens of thousands of tall steels. Most of the stone tablets had been eroded by the passage of time, and the words on them were somewhat blurred. Every stone tablet was inscribed with the name and honorific title of a soul refinement realm expert. It also recorded the achievements and glory of that person. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and discovered that the soul refinement realm experts recorded on the 10,000 divine steels came from various races. And these soul refinement realm experts all came from the imperial residence. He had heard from the Beast King that as long as the imperial prince of the imperial residence reached the soul refinement realm and obtained the imperial rank honorific title, he would be qualified to set up a divine steel here. The tens of thousands of divine steels in the Forest of Divine Monuments meant that the imperial residence had cultivated tens of thousands of soul refinement realm experts in the past thousands of years. Ji Ku and Yin also understood this point, so they followed Ji Tianxing's footsteps and walked into the depths of the Forest of Divine Monuments, looking at the various divine steels along the way. After an hour, Ji Tianxing and the other two passed through the Forest of Divine Monuments and walked to the end of the Blackstone Road. At the end of the road in front of the three of them, there stood a majestic door that was about 100 meters wide and 1,000 meters tall. The door was made of mysterious black stone. Even after thousands of years of wind and rain, it was still indestructible and exuded an ancient and powerful aura. There was no door at the entrance, and it was sealed by a colorful light barrier. It was obviously a super large array. Only people who knew how to break it or had the corresponding token could enter and exit the door. Above the majestic door, on the ancient and wide lintel, there were 4 large words carved in bold calligraphy. Emperor of all ages. When Ji Tianxing saw the 4 large words, he immediately understood that this simple and powerful black door was the entrance to the imperial residence. After passing through the barrier formation that sealed the door, one could enter the imperial residence. He used his spiritual sense to carefully investigate the barrier formation and found that the grade of this formation was far beyond the heavenly origin grade. It was incomparably mysterious and complex. With his master-level array attainments, he could not see through the barrier formation at all. He could not even see the veins of the formation. The truth was just as the Beast King said. There was only one barrier formation at the entrance of the imperial residence. There was no need for guards at all. Just as Ji Tianqing looked up to size up the barrier formation, light footsteps came from behind him, and there was a voice full of surprise. Ji Tianqing? Ji Tianqing came back to his senses and hurriedly turned his head to look behind him. He saw a handsome young man in a golden robe with a noble temperament walking towards him. The handsome young man with a dignified appearance was none other than the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao, whom he had not seen for a long time. Long Yunxiao stepped in front of Ji Tianqing and asked with a puzzled look, "Ji Tianqing, you actually came to the central province? What are you doing here?" Ji Tianqing looked at him indifferently and said calmly, "This is the entrance to the imperial residence. What do you think I can do here?" Long Yunxiao immediately raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, "Ji Tianqing, you can't be telling me that you want to enter the imperial residence and become the emperor, right? Why not?" Ji Tianqing looked at him expressionlessly and exuded a confident and calm aura. Long Yunxiao sized him up and couldn't help but smile. He nodded and said, "I haven't seen you for 5 months, and you've actually reached the half-step heaven's origin stage. You've indeed improved very quickly. However, I have to remind you of something. In another month, I will choose a heavenly concubine in the Apocalypse Tower and announce it to the world." Ji Tianqing said indifferently, "Of course, I won't forget such an important matter. Long Yunxiao, I will definitely climb up the Apocalypse Tower and have a fair battle with you. I will defeat you in front of all the powerful cultivators in the world. I hope you still remember what you said before. After I defeat you, I won't force Yin Yao to become a heavenly concubine." Long Yunxiao's eyes became even more playful. He nodded and said, "I'm a man of my words. I won't go back on my words. If you can really defeat me, I will voluntarily withdraw and not pester Yin Yao anymore. Moreover, don't you want to enter the imperial residence? Coincidentally, I have already entered the imperial residence 2 years ago and became the 53rd emperor. If you can defeat me, you can pass the test of the imperial residence and become the new emperor. There will be one more later. Brothers, sorry to keep you waiting." Chapter 495. Upon hearing Long Yunxiao's words, Ji Tianqing realized that he had become a Thearcha's son. His eyes lit up as he smiled playfully. He said to Long Yunxiao, "If that's the case, I have to thank you. Since we are going to have a duel at the Apocalypse Tower in a month's time, I will send a letter to the Imperial Palace and challenge you. This is the best of both worlds, which is exactly what I want." Long Yunxiao frowned and said proudly, "Ji Tianqing, you are very confident, but you are overconfident. Although you have improved a lot in the past 5 months, you are still just a half-step to ethereal stage cultivator. I would like to see if you can break through the shackles of ethereal stage in a month's time. Not long ago, I had reached the 2nd level of the sky origin stage. When we duel at the Apocalypse Tower in a month's time, I will not show you any mercy. You don't even have the slightest hope of winning." Long Yunxiao's expression and tone were even more confident than Ji Tianqing's, as if he was determined to win. Ji Tianqing glanced at him and said coldly, "It is too early for you to say that. Let's duel in a month's time." "All right, it's a deal." Long Yunxiao nodded and walked past him to the entrance of the Imperial Palace. However, when he reached the entrance, he stopped in his tracks. He turned around and looked at Ji Tianqing. He smiled and said playfully, "By the way, I have something to tell you. A month ago, Yin Yao entered the Imperial Palace and became the 55th Thearcha's son. She is now cultivating in the Imperial Palace. I will take good care of her. Don't worry, After that, Long Yunxiao took out the Thearcha's token from his infinite space ring and walked through the door. He disappeared after passing through the colorful barrier. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fists tightly in his sleeves. Although he clearly knew that Long Yunxiao was definitely deliberately provoking him and infuriating him. However, he hadn't seen Yin Yao for a few months and didn't know how Yin Yao was doing recently. He was too worried and concerned about Yin Yao, so it was impossible for him to remain indifferent. Of course, he was furious. Ji Ku and Yin were also angered by Ji Tianqing's words and attitude. They hurriedly opened their mouths to comfort Ji Tianxing. Yin said angrily, "Senior brother Tianxing, don't listen to Long Yunxiao's nonsense. He's just trying to provoke you. He's too bad." Jiku also comforted him. "Brother Tianxing, you know eldest senior sister's nature better than we do. You should believe that eldest senior sister will definitely not have a good impression of Long Yunxiao." Yin hurriedly nodded in agreement. "Yes, we have to believe in eldest senior sister. She definitely won't be nice to Long Yunxiao." In a moment, Ji Tianxing suppressed the anger in his heart and calmed down. He looked at Jiku and Yin. Seeing their concerned expressions, he smiled and said, "It's okay. You don't have to persuade me. I know what I'm doing. If eldest senior sister could accept Long Yunxiao, she would have accepted him a few years ago. Why would she leave Zhongzhou and go to the Sky Pillar sect? Long Yunxiao's provocation means that he can't get close to eldest senior sister for the time being. Since eldest senior sister has already entered the Monarch Mansion, I have to enter the Monarch Mansion as soon as possible to see her again." Speaking of this, he looked at the entrance of the Monarch Mansion with burning eyes and said in a sonorous tone, "1 month later, I will defeat Long Yunxiao at the Apocalypse Pagoda no matter what." Seeing that he wasn't angered and was even more determined, Jiku and Yin both smiled. Yin clenched her fists and said with determination, "Senior brother Tianxing, I believe that you can defeat that despicable Long Yunxiao." Jiku also said with anticipation, "Brother Tianxing, you can only win the battle at the Apocalypse Pagoda? After you defeat Long Yunxiao, not only will you make him withdraw, but you will also become famous and enter the Monarch Mansion. You will become a noble emperor. This is killing 3 birds with 1 stone." "Yes, of course." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. Then, he turned around and left with Jiku and Yin. After the 3 of them left the Forest of Divine Monuments, they returned to the Qingfeng courtyard. Ji Tianxing had made up his mind. In the next month, he would cultivate in seclusion and do everything he could to break through to the ethereal realm. The battle at the Apocalypse Pagoda was very important. He would not lose, and he couldn't lose. An hour later, the 3 of them were walking on a bustling street in the city. Suddenly, they heard a commotion in front of them. The bustling crowd on the street immediately parted to both sides and moved to the side of the road. Ji Tianxing, Jiku, and Yin were walking in the middle of the street when they saw the crowd parting. The 3 of them were confused as they looked at the empty street in front of them. At the end of the street, there was a large group of people walking toward them with a majestic aura. It was a group of about 200 guards of honor. They looked majestic and luxurious. They looked even more majestic than the emperor when he went on an inspection tour. There were 16 primal core realm elites in black armor. They were so tall that they didn't look like humans. They were riding on huge white dragon colts and were leading the way for the group. Behind the 16 white dragon steeds, there were more than 100 demon clan guards who were as tall and sturdy as iron towers. Although they were more than 1,000 steps away, Ji Tianxing could feel the ferocious and murderous aura that the demon guards were emitting. In the middle of the group of demon guards was an extremely luxurious emperor's chariot. It was dazzling with golden light. The emperor's chariot was like a small moving palace. It had a radius of 10 meters. It was made of heavenly fire, true gold, and was inlaid with a dazzling array of precious gems and spiritual jades. On the round canopy of the emperor's chariot, there were countless chains of pearls and gems hanging down. They covered the inside of the emperor's chariot like a curtain, making it hazy and unreal. Around the emperor's chariot, there were more than 60 beautiful foreign race women. Some were holding jade rui, some were carrying flower baskets, and some were carrying pipa and musical instruments. All in all, this luxurious and magnificent non-humankind troupe almost filled up the entire street. The people on the street all stood on the side of the street and looked up at the guards of honor. Their faces were full of awe and excitement. Ji Tianxing and the other 2 came back to their senses. They also walked to the side of the street and stood still, silently watching the guards of honor as they walked over. At this time, many warriors and commoners around the 3 of them were also discussing in low voices. "That seems to be the demon race's Kunwu prince. What a grand display. Don't you know? Kunwu Prince entered the emperor's mansion 2 years ago and became the noble emperor's son. It's actually the emperor's son? Oh my god, this is the first time I've seen the legendary emperor's son. He's really noble and sacred. The 6th chapter has arrived. Sorry for the long wait. These few days, Lil will try to adjust the chapters as much as possible and try to update all the chapters at once at 10 a.m. every day. Thank you for your support and understanding. Chapter 496. Ji Ku and Yin could understand Ji Tianqing's mood. However, Ji Ku said with a worried face, "Brother Tianqing, there are too many people here. I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to sneak into the honor guard." Ji Tianqing shook his head and explained to her, "Kuku, don't worry. I won't follow Kunwa's honor guard here. I'll go to the Forest of Divine Monuments first. When the entrance of the Monarch Mansion opens, I'll take the opportunity to sneak into the honor guard. No one is near the Forest of Divine Monuments. As long as I'm careful, I won't be discovered." Yin said with a worried face, "Senior brother Tianqing, even if you can sneak into the Monarch Mansion, it's a mysterious and powerful holy land. I'm afraid your whereabouts will be exposed soon." Ji Tianqing frowned and said in a deep voice, "Now is a great opportunity. If I miss this opportunity, I don't know how many days I'll have to wait. After I sneak into the Monarch Mansion, I'll act according to the circumstances. Don't worry." Ji Ku was still a little worried and asked, "Brother Tianqing, even if you can sneak into the Monarch Mansion, how are you going to get out?" Ji Tianqing already had a plan and explained, "I'll find senior sister. She will definitely have a way to send me out of the Monarch Mansion." At this time, Yin suddenly thought of something and quickly took out a dark golden talisman from her space ring and handed it to him. "Senior brother Tianqing, I have a way. This is an invisibility talisman specially made by our fire tribe. It's a heavenly origin talisman. Maybe it can help you achieve your wish." The fire tribe was born with the ability to control fire. They were good at drawing talismans and making talismans. They could make all kinds of magical talismans. Before Yin left the fire tribe, the fire emperor and fire empress prepared many powerful talismans for him in case of emergencies. Ji Tianqing saw the talisman in Yin Er's hand and suddenly showed a look of surprise. "Invisibility talisman? Yin you actually have such a magical talisman?" Yin nodded and said with a smile, "This invisibility talisman was personally made by my father using the top talisman Dao secret method. I never had the chance to use it before, but now I can finally put it to good use." "Well, that's much easier." Ji Tianqing's expression eased a lot. He nodded and thanked Yin "Thank you." While casting a spell to activate the power in the talisman, Yin explained to him, "Senior brother Tianqing, this is a special talisman of our fire tribe. Only the power of our fire tribe can use it. After I use this talisman to make you invisible, it can only last for 4 hours at most. You must make good use of the time." As his voice fell, the dark golden talisman turned into a wisp of golden flame, enveloping Ji Tianqing's body. A miraculous scene appeared. Ji Tianqing's body became thin and transparent. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into thin air. Ji Ku's eyes suddenly widened, and her pretty face revealed a look of deep surprise. Ji Tianqing lowered his head and looked at his transparent body. He couldn't help but praise. This invisibility talisman is indeed mysterious. It actually has such a miraculous effect. Not only can't the naked eye see me, but even if a master uses his soul sense, he won't be able to find me. Yin smiled and nodded. "Senior brother Tianqing, you can go now without worry. Remember, the invisibility talisman only lasts for 4 hours. You must leave as soon as possible." Ji Ku also exhorted with concern. "Brother Tianqing, you must be careful." Ji Tianqing said with his soul sense, "You go back to Qingfeng Courtyard first and wait for me to come back." After saying that, he quickly crossed the street and followed the honor guard to the Forest of Divine Monuments. Ji Ku and Yin couldn't see Ji Tianqing's figure, but both of them knew that Ji Tianqing must have blended in with the honor guard. They prayed silently in their hearts, then left the street and rushed back to Qingfeng Courtyard. About a quarter of an hour later, Prince Kunwa's honor guard majestically entered the forest of divine monuments and arrived at the entrance of the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing had been invisible the whole time. He had been blended in with the honor guard and was not discovered by anyone. At this time, Kunwa took out the prince's token and activated the monarch mansion's enchantment array. The honor guard entered the gate in an endless stream, passed through the colorful barrier, and entered the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing followed at the back of the honor guard and soon entered an alternate space. He saw a vast grassland under his feet, and in front of him were towering and majestic mountain ranges. Every dark green mountain range was like a huge divine dragon lying between heaven and earth, exuding a powerful and majestic aura. At the end of the vast grassland, close to a towering mountain range, there was a huge lake as calm as a mirror. The land was vast, the mountains were beautiful, and the sky was blue. Occasionally, a few white clouds could be seen. There were also a few gigantic flying spirit beasts that were soaring in the sky. This was the mysterious, sacred Monarch Mansion. Before entering the Monarch Mansion, Ji Tianxing had fantasized many times about what the mysterious and powerful Monarch Mansion was like. Now, he finally saw that the Monarch Mansion was not only a mystic realm, but also a vast small world. Kunwa's honor guard stepped on the green and soft grassland and rushed toward the mountain range in front. Although the guards carrying the monarch's chariot were running on the grassland as fast as the wind, their speed was too slow for Ji Tianxing. The effect of the invisibility talisman only lasted for 4 hours. Ji Tianxing did not want to waste time and followed the honor guard into the mountain range. He quickly condensed a pair of wings with his Kenshin battle robe and quietly flew into the sky, rushing into the depths of the mountain range as fast as lightning. After 15 minutes, he entered the undulating mountain range and flew thousands of feet high in the sky. Looking down from the sky, he could see the situation of the mountain range below clearly. He saw that there were dozens of huge mountain ranges in the area with a radius of thousands of miles. The many mountain ranges were connected head to tail. Clearly, they were arranged in a special pattern, containing the mysteries of an incomparably mysterious array formation. With Ji Tianxing's array formation skills, he could not see what kind of array the dozens of huge mountain ranges were arranged in, but he could be sure that this array formed by dozens of mountain ranges in a radius of thousands of miles was definitely an array formation that surpassed the divine origin level. Moreover, the person who could use dozens of mountain ranges to set up an array formation must be a powerhouse above the soul refinement realm. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and found that each mountain range was a spirit vein that gathered endless heaven and earth spirit chi. Dozens of spirit veins gathered together, causing the heaven and earth spirit chi in a radius of thousands of miles to be so dense that it made one's hair stand on end. The vast and boundless heaven and earth spirit chi condensed into colorful auspicious clouds in the sky, sprinkling colorful water droplets continuously. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing was instantly filled with shock and surprise. The heaven and earth spirit chi condensed into clouds, reaching the level of spirit chi liquid. Those colorful raindrops are the legendary spiritual liquid. Chapter 497. Ji Tianxing had read a brief history of martial arts in the Tianxian continent and understood many martial arts legends. He knew that spiritual stones and spiritual liquid were rare resources that martial artists needed to cultivate. Spiritual stones were only produced in mines and were extremely rare. Moreover, martial artists needed to meditate and cultivate to absorb the spiritual chi contained in spiritual stones. However, spiritual liquid was different. It was a treasure that was even rarer than spiritual stones. Spiritual liquid was formed by pure spiritual chi and could be consumed directly. If martial artists used spirit liquid to cultivate, not only could they save time in meditation, the effects were even better than spirit stones. However, while spiritual stones and mines were common, spiritual liquid only existed in legends. Ji Tianqing never expected that he would see spiritual qi turn into clouds and liquid in the monarch mansion with his own eyes. This made him exclaim in shock. The monarch mansion is indeed the #1 martial arts sanctuary on the continent. The spiritual qi here is so dense that it can turn into spiritual liquid. Ordinary flowers and trees would become spiritual herbs and spiritual trees after being nourished by the spiritual liquid. If martial artists were to cultivate here, their strength would increase 10 times faster than the outside world. No wonder everyone believes that only by entering the monarch mansion can one surpass the Sky Yuan stage and reach the legendary refined soul stage. When he thought of this, Ji Tianqing's desire to enter the monarch mansion became even more urgent. He continued to fly above the mountain range and observe from above. After a while, he saw another clue. Every mountain range was a spiritual vein, and the tallest mountain in the mountain range was the spring of the spiritual vein. The spiritual qi contained in the entire spiritual vein would constantly surge out from the spring. Therefore, at the spring of every mountain range, on the peak of the majestic mountain range, there was a huge and magnificent palace. Those magnificent and majestic palaces were all located on the peaks of the mountains that were tens of thousands of meters high. The palaces were shrouded in a hazy 5-colored spiritual qi, and below them was a white sea of clouds. This made each palace seem to be standing in the sea of clouds, emitting a hazy 5-colored spiritual light, as if it was the palace of the gods in the 9 heavens. Ji Tianqing observed for a while and suddenly guessed something. I understand now. The palaces above the spirit vein spring must be the residences of the princes. Within 1,000 miles, there are more than 50 mountain ranges, which corresponded to more than 50 princes. Every Thearka's son occupies a mountain range, a spirit vein, and a cave abode, which means that they have an extremely abundant amount of cultivation resources. He was extremely envious of those imperial princes. With such abundant and luxurious resources, it would be difficult for them not to become geniuses. However, he believed that it wouldn't be long before he could enter the imperial palace and become a noble imperial prince. He would have his own spiritual vein and cave abode. Very quickly, an hour had passed. Ji Tianqing crossed a dozen towering mountain ranges and flew to the center of the heaven and earth formation. While he was still far away, he saw a towering mountain in front of him that towered into the sky. The towering mountain that was more than 10,000 meters tall was clearly the center of the area within 1,000 miles. It was also the core of the heaven and earth great formation. Everything above the mountainside was enshrouded in thick white clouds and 5-colored spiritual light. At the peak of the mountain, there was actually a 5-colored spiritual lake with a radius of 5 kilometers. That spiritual lake was the spring of the great formation. The heaven and earth spirit qi within 1,000 miles would constantly emerge from the spring. The extremely dense heaven and earth spirit qi would condense into spiritual liquid, and the endless spiritual liquid would eventually converge into a spiritual lake. After understanding this, Ji Tianqing's heart raced again. Oh my God, a drop of spiritual liquid is already very precious. Its value is comparable to a spirit stone. But the spiritual liquid here can converge into a spiritual lake? How many drops of spiritual liquid would there be? Not to mention using the spiritual liquid to cultivate. Even if I bathed in it every day, I wouldn't be able to finish it in my lifetime, right? At that moment, Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with a strong desire and impulse. He really wanted to jump into the spirit lake and drink until he was full of spirit liquid. However, he immediately suppressed this thought, because he saw that in the sky above the spiritual lake, there were dozens of colorful spiritual jade thrones floating. There was a young expert sitting on each of the spiritual jade thrones. Those young powerhouses were male and female. Their appearances and clans were all different. There were humans, demons, and water clans. Moreover, every one of them was dressed luxuriously. Their auras were noble and graceful. Their entire bodies emitted a strong aura of confidence and pride. Ji Tianqing glanced over and saw almost 50 young powerhouses. Almost all of their strengths had reached the sky origin stage. Even if there were 2 or 3 people who only had the strength of the origin core stage, they had all reached the 7th level of the origin core stage. Moreover, their auras were not inferior to others. He immediately understood the identity of those young powerhouses. They were the princes of the monarch's estate. Almost 50 princes sat on the spiritual jade thrones. They formed a circle around a lotus throne that was dazzling with golden light. On the lotus throne that was surrounded by the princes like stars surrounding the moon, a black-robed man sat cross-legged. The black-robed man was a human powerhouse. His figure was thin and tall, and his face was resolute and dignified. He only wore a black robe. His long hair was draped behind his head. He did not tie his hair into a bun or wear a jade crown. There was not a single ornament on his body. However, even though his attire was simple and unadorned, his entire body emitted a transcendent aura, as though he was looking down on heaven and earth. The feeling came from the depths of his soul. Ji Tianxing felt it very strongly and deeply. He could even feel that the black-robed man had surpassed the category of mortals. His life had reached a whole new level. As he thought of this, a thought subconsciously appeared in his mind. Soul refinement, stage powerhouse. God-tier master. That black-robed man must be the legendary God-tier master of the monarch's estate. A few months ago, Ji Tianxing heard that there was an extraordinary soul refinement stage powerhouse above the sky origin stage. Before today, he still thought that soul refinement stage powerhouses were high and mighty. It was almost impossible to see them. However, he did not expect to see a soul refinement stage powerhouse with his own eyes at such a close distance. He quickly stopped 1,000 meters away from the princes and did not dare to get any closer. He was not afraid of being discovered by the sky origin princes, but he had to be wary of the soul refinement stage God-tier master. After all, he was not sure how far the God-tier master's spiritual consciousness could reach. Moreover, he didn't know how powerful that God-tier master was. The only thing he could do was to hold his breath and calm his mind. He tried his best to conceal his aura so that the God-tier master would not notice him. The sky was quiet. The black-robed God-tier master sat on the golden lotus throne with his eyes closed. The martial monarch's sons in the surroundings sat quietly without saying a word. Even if they did talk, they would secretly use their spiritual consciousness to communicate. Chapter 498. The black-robed divine master closed his eyes and rested. Many of the thearchs were also silent. Ji Tianxing hid in the sky, not far away. His sharp eyes scanned the thearchs and searched for Yun Yao's figure. 1, 2, 3, 4. He saw one majestic and peerless thearchs after another. He also saw the top prodigies of the various races. They were all so elegant. After a while, when he saw a young human in a golden robe, his eyes paused. He was very familiar with the young man in the golden robe. He had seen him at the entrance of the emperor's residence today. That was the emperor, Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao sat on the spiritual jade throne with a calm expression. He was silent and dignified. However, every once in a while, he would look at the beautiful figure on the left with a gentle look in his eyes. Ji Tianxing followed his gaze and saw a cold and proud figure in a moon-white dress. She was an extremely beautiful woman with an otherworldly temperament that could topple cities. She sat quietly on the spiritual jade throne with her eyes closed. Her expression was cold and indifferent, as if she did not care about everything around her. Ji Tianxing's eyes froze as he stared at her. He muttered in his heart, "Eldest senior sister, I've finally seen you." Without a doubt, that was Yun Yao, whom he had been worried about and swore to protect for the rest of his life. The moment he saw Yun Yao, his eyes became gentle, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ever since he had recovered from his injuries and left the Cloud Spirit Palace, he had been worried about Yun Yao for the past few months. It was as if a heavy stone was pressing down on his heart. Until now, when he saw that Yun Yao was safe and sound, and that her injuries and complexion had recovered to normal, he finally felt relieved. Only then did he finally let go of the huge rock in his heart and secretly let out a sigh of relief. Time passed quietly. Ji Tianxing had been silently staring at Yun Yao. He could not get enough of her. Yun Yao closed her eyes and rested for a long time. However, she suddenly frowned as if she had sensed something. She slowly opened her eyes and quietly turned her head to look in the direction of Ji Tianxing. She and Ji Tianxing were connected by blood, and their minds were interlinked. There was a miraculous telepathy between them. Just now, she vaguely sensed Ji Tianxing's aura, which seemed to be nearby. However, she didn't dare to believe that this was true. She even thought that she was hallucinating. Therefore, there was a hint of doubt and expectation in her eyes. However, when she turned her head to take a look, she saw that the sky was empty. Other than the many princes in the surroundings, there was no one else. The anticipation in Yun Yao's eyes dimmed and was replaced by disappointment. She turned her head back and continued to close her eyes to rest. Ji Tianxing saw everything clearly. He was secretly anxious, but there was nothing he could do. If the black-robed God Master was not present, he really wanted to fly to Yun Yao's side and use his spiritual sense to communicate with her and greet her. Unfortunately, the black-robed God Master was present, so he had no choice but to suppress this thought. At this moment, a handsome young man with silver hair and wearing a white fox fur coat flew over from the sky. He was Prince Kuan Wu, the one who helped Ji Tianxing sneak into the monarch mansion. Kuan Wu flapped his silver wings and streaked across the sky like a shooting star. He arrived at the scene in a few breaths' time. Prince Kuan Wu greets God Master Black Feather. Kuan Wu stood in the sky and bowed respectfully to the black-robed God Master on the golden lotus seat. God Master Black Feather opened his eyes. There was a faint flash of lightning in his eyes, which tore the sky in front of him until it was slightly distorted. Kuan Wu, have a seat, God Master Black Feather said indifferently. Kuan Wu cupped his hands and bowed again. Then he found a spiritual jade seat and quickly sat down. God Master Black Feather scanned the scene indifferently. When he saw that there were still 5 empty spiritual jade seats, he said calmly, "Basically, everyone is here. Those who are not here need not wait anymore. The Monarch Mansion has summoned all of you back to discuss an important matter. A few months ago, the ancient demon emperor, who had been suppressed for thousands of years, broke the seal and reappeared in the world. Princes, please speak freely and discuss how to deal with this matter." God Master Black Feather's expression and tone were cold and indifferent. His words were also very concise. He simply explained what he wanted to discuss. Then, he looked at the crowd in silence and waited for the princes to express their opinions. Ji Tianxing, who was hiding not far away, raised his eyebrows and looked expectant. As I expected, the Monarch Mansion has summoned all the princes back to Middle State City because of the reappearance of the Demon Emperor. He stared at the princes in the field, holding his breath as he listened attentively. However, the 50 princes were all silent. They looked indifferent and their eyes were calm. No one spoke first. God Master Black Feather was not in a hurry and did not urge the princes to speak. After 100 breaths, a demon race princess with a slender figure and a foxy temperament spoke in a clear and pleasant voice. "Since none of you are willing to speak first, I, Fox Princess, will throw a brick to attract Jade and give you a start." Hearing this, Crown Prince Kunwu quickly chimed in. As the third princess, Fox Princess does have the right to speak first. Kunwu is all ears. A few other demon race princes also nodded to express their support. The few princes who spoke in agreement were all from the demon race like Fox Princess. Of course, they were on the same side and were very close to each other. Moreover, Fox Princess was the third princess in the Monarch Mansion. In terms of strength and status, she was outstanding. Among the demon race princes and princesses, she was the most powerful and the most senior. More than a dozen demon race princes followed her lead. Since Fox Princess had spoken, the demon race princes naturally had to agree and support her. Fox Princess did not continue with the pleasantries. With a serious expression, she said in a low and resolute voice, "The demon race is cruel and bloodthirsty. If there is a chance to exterminate the demon race, we must not miss it. In the ancient era, the demon race, once massacred all the races in the world. They caused the sky to fall and the earth to rend, causing many races to perish. A race as cruel and inhumane as the demon race should not exist in this world. For nearly 1,000 years, the demon race was without a leader, and the Tianxian land was able to maintain peace. Now that the demon emperor has reappeared in the world, if he were to lead the demon race, he would certainly set off a new round of bloody storms. Therefore, Fox Princess thinks that the Monarch Mansion should do everything in their power to kill the demon emperor as soon as possible to prevent him from bringing disaster to the world. After she finished speaking, Fox Princess extended her slender hand and sprinkled the 5-colored vital essence into the spiritual lake on the mountain peak below. Instantly, the 5-colored spiritual lake with a radius of 10 miles turned into a miraculous mirror and displayed a clear picture. It was the picture of a tragic battlefield. Tens of thousands of demon race armies were madly attacking an ancient and majestic city. The city, with a radius of a few hundred miles, was shrouded by the demon cloud that covered the sky and the sun. It was gloomy and cold. The flames of war were ignited everywhere in the city. Ruins, blood, and corpses were everywhere. The ferocious and bloodthirsty demon race army charged into the city and brutally slaughtered the demon race civilians. After a moment, the ancient city in the picture collapsed and turned into a giant pile of ruins. Chapter 499. After the images in the spiritual lake ended, Fox Concubine waved her hand again and shot out beams of 5-colored light. Then, images appeared in the spiritual lakes, mirror one after another. Every image was similar. They were all scenes of the demon race's villages, tribes, and cities being attacked and massacred by the demon race. The scenes in the images were extremely tragic and bloody. It made people feel depressed and angry, and they hated the demon race's cruelty and violence. Fox Concubine showed more than a dozen images before saying solemnly, "The image just now was the scene of the demon race's army massacring the demon race's people 1,000 years ago. Now that the demon race has enjoyed 1,000 years of peace, we can finally recuperate. I, Fox Concubine, will never allow the Demon King to return to the northern desert and lead the demon race's army to massacre the demon race's people again." Speaking of this, Fox Concubine looked at God Teacher Blackfeather solemnly and said, "God Teacher Blackfeather, Fox Concubine pleads for the Imperial residents to find the ancient Demon King's tracks as soon as possible. Please kill it before it escapes back to the northern desert to prevent future troubles." God Teacher Blackfeather said indifferently, "The Imperial residence is in Zhongzhou City and controls the land of Zhongzhou. They are only responsible for protecting the land of Zhongzhou. If the ancient Demon King escapes to Zhongzhou and wreaks havoc, the Imperial residents will naturally send experts to kill it. As for the Eastern Wilderness, Western Wilderness, Northern Desert, and the 9 regions in the south, they are ruled by the various Imperial courts. The Imperial residents will not interfere." God Teacher Blackfeather's attitude was very clear. The Imperial residents ruled the land of Zhongzhou and would only protect it. They would not care about the lives of the various races. After all, that was the Imperial court's business. Fox Concubine frowned and asked again, "God Teacher Blackfeather, if the Imperial residence is neutral and will not interfere, why did you gather all the princes to discuss this matter?" God Teacher Blackfeather looked at her indifferently and explained, "What I said just now is the Imperial residence's position. The reason why I gathered all of you for a discussion is to hear your opinions. The Imperial residence will make a decision based on everyone's opinions. Thank you for clearing my doubts." Fox Concubine bowed and did not say anything else. At this moment, Long Yunxiao spoke in a calm tone. 1,000 years ago, the Devil Emperor unleashed a massacre in our territory, causing rivers of blood to flow in several regions and plunging the people into misery and suffering. Now that the Fiend Emperor has broken the seal, he will definitely wreak havoc in our territory. I suggest that the Imperial Monarch residents send experts to kill the Devil King as soon as possible. Furthermore, our Imperial Court will also assist the Monarch Manor with all our might. We vow to fight the demon race to the end. As the emperor of the imperial court, Long Yunzhao's words represented the attitude of the imperial court. The princes and princesses of a human race nodded slightly in agreement. Seeing this, Fox Princess glanced at Long Yunzhao, and a playful smile appeared on her lips. Son of Heaven is wise indeed. Our race is the same as the human race. We have an irreconcilable blood feud with the demon race. If we allow the Devil Emperor to recover, he will definitely lead the Devil Army to attack our West Baron monster race. Although you humans are located in the southern continent and are separated from a northern desert by the central continent, you seem to be the furthest away from the demon race. However, once the demons of the western wilderness are defeated, the Demon Emperor's next target will be the humans of the southern land. The relationship between our two races is as close as the lips and teeth. Without the lips, the teeth will feel cold. Long Yunzhao looked at Fox Princess, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded. He entered the imperial residence late and was only ranked 53rd. However, Fox Princess had been in the imperial residence for many years and was ranked 3rd. Her strength was several levels higher than his. Before today, Fox Princess had never spoken a word to him, nor did she take him seriously. Of course, he knew that Fox Princess was talking to him in public just to pull him to the same side. At the same time, a princess of the water race sitting opposite Fox Princess spoke indifferently. The territory of the demon race is close to the demon race of the northern desert. Since ancient times, the demon race has harmed us. 1,000 years ago, the Silver Moon Fox race was at its peak, but the demon army slaughtered 60 to 70% of its people. Fox Princess's indignation was understandable. However, the water race of the eastern wilderness doesn't have much of a grudge against the demon race. If you attack the Devil Emperor, I will give you my blessings. I hope you will win, huh? This prince was as strong as an iron tower. He wore a loose purple robe and exuded a domineering aura. His face was resolute and fierce, and his temperament was valiant. A golden dragon horn protruded from his forehead, and his exposed skin was covered in fine dragon scales. This was the most respected prince of the Golden Dragon race in the eastern wilderness. He was also the prince of the demon imperial court, Tai. More importantly, he was ranked first among the more than 50 princes of the imperial residence. He had already reached the half-step spirit-refining realm and was recognized as the strongest among the princes. He was also the leader of the princes of the water race. When Tai finished speaking, several other princes of the water race chimed in. The imperial residence is the ruler of the middle ground. They have a high status. Why would they interfere with the grudge between the humans, demons, and demons? We haven't even found the Devil Emperor, and the humans and demons are already fighting. That's too reckless. It's just the demons. What's there to fear? The water race of the eastern wilderness isn't afraid of the demons. Fox Princess frowned at the words of the princes of the water race. She looked at Tai coldly and said in a low voice, Tai, the eastern wilderness is the same as the western wilderness. They're both close to the northern desert. Why are you gloating like this? Aren't you afraid that the Devil Emperor will lead his army to invade the East Wasteland and slaughter your waterkind people? Let's see how you're going to defend yourself by then. How are you going to explain it to your people? Tai was still calm. He dusted his wide sleeves and said slowly, for thousands of years, the water race of the eastern wilderness has developed under the rule of the Golden Dragon race. They're powerful and prosperous. If the ancient demon emperor dares to lead his army to invade, I'll make sure he doesn't return. Moreover, the demon army isn't good at swimming. Even if they enter the eastern wilderness, they won't be able to move. What do I have to fear? Tai, he then glanced at Fox Princess with a mocking smile. Fox Princess's beautiful face became colder and colder. After a cold snort, she ignored him. Following it, the martial monarchs of the human tribe and the beast tribe spoke too. Everyone supported the imperial residents to kill the Devil Emperor. Yun Yao listened in silence. She looked indifferent and didn't say anything. Tianxing hid in the dark and observed for a long time. He understood the attitudes of the various races and saw the differences between the princes of the three races. The princes of the Eastern Wilderness Water Race obviously followed Tai's lead. After all, he was the most powerful and the oldest among the 50 princes. He was also the heir of the Water Race Imperial Court. The princes of the Western Wilderness Demon Race followed Fox Princess. The human princes and princesses all followed Long Yunxiao's opinion on the matter of dealing with the Devil Emperor. Although Long Yunxiao was weaker, he was the emperor of the human race and represented the human imperial court. An hour later, the disciples finished their discussion and looked at Divine Master Yu, waiting for him to make a decision. Chapter 500. Ji Tianxing calculated the time. He had at most 15 minutes before the invisibility talisman's effect wore off. Within this 15 minutes, he had to leave the princes and Divine Master Yu as soon as possible to avoid exposing himself. However, since he wanted to know the imperial residence's stance and also wanted to talk to Yin Yao, he was unwilling to leave just like that. He stared at Divine Master Yu on the golden lotus seat and suppressed his anxiety as he waited silently. However, Divine Master Yu did not immediately express his stance. He spoke a few more sentences, indicating that the imperial residence had not started investigating the demonic emperor's whereabouts. If the imperial residents wanted to deal with the demonic emperor, they would have to give out missions and delay the prince's cultivation. There would also be many unexpected dangers. It was even possible that some princes would be sacrificed because of this. Divine Master Yu stated the stakes and asked the princes to consider carefully before making the final decision. The princes fell into silence again, and they were carefully weighing the pros and cons. In the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour had passed. Ji Tianxing knew that the imperial residence was a martial arts holy land and would be very careful when making an important decision. It was normal for Divine Master Yu and the princes to discuss for an entire day, let alone 2 hours. However, Ji Tianxing did not have enough time. Divine Master Yu still had not expressed the imperial residence's final decision, but he could not wait any longer. Damn it! If I had another hour, I would have known the imperial residence's decision and strategy. No, I can't wait any longer. I have to leave this place in the last 15 minutes and find a safe place to hide. Then, I will think of a way to contact Senior Sister. Ji Tianxing made up his mind and prepared to turn around and leave. He was wary of Divine Master Yu and did not dare to use too much true core power. He gently flapped his golden wings and flew into the distance. However, the flapping of his golden wings still accelerated the flow of the air, creating invisible air currents and cyclones. No matter how careful he was, this was unavoidable. Divine Master Yu, who was sitting on the lotus seat, was pondering expressionlessly. His invisible spiritual sense covered a radius of 5 kilometers. He immediately sensed that in the sky 1,000 meters away, there was an abnormal fluctuation in the air and a trace of true yuan leaked out. At that moment, Divine Sage Yu suddenly raised his eyelids and looked at Ji Tianxing with eyes as sharp as swords. Ji Tianxing felt as if there was a thorn in his back when he was being stared at by his sharp eyes. His body suddenly stiffened, and he stopped, not daring to move. It's over. Have we been discovered by Divine, Sovereign Black Feather? However, even though he was invisible, he could not escape from Divine Master Blackfeather's senses and was discovered. Who dares to trespass into the imperial residence? God Mentor Yu roared angrily. He suddenly raised his right hand and waved his palm to unleash a huge 5-color palm shadow. Shwa! That huge, dazzling palm shadow contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. It streaked across the sky at the speed of light and instantly arrived in front of Ji Tianxing. The 5-colored palm was too fast. It was so fast that it exceeded Ji Tianxing's imagination. He had no chance to dodge it. At this critical moment, he did not have time to think. He instinctively opened his wide, golden wings and blocked in front of him to protect his body. At the same time, the 5-colored giant palm with terrifying power slammed into Ji Tianxing, drowning his body. Bang! A loud, dull sound exploded and echoed in the sky. The violent and devastating force exploded, shattering the sky within 1,000 meters, revealing black cracks. A palm strike from a soul-refining realm expert was so powerful that it could tear the sky apart. Divine Master He Yu's strength was so terrifying. Ji Tianxing was sent flying by the five-colored palm. He only stopped after he was sent flying 1,000 meters away. Fortunately, he used his golden wings to protect himself and blocked the destructive palm strike. He was not killed on the spot. Unfortunately, he suffered severe internal injuries. His internal organs were all twisted and ruptured. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, the effect of the invisibility talisman was broken by Divine Master He Yu's palm strike. Ji Tianxing's figure was revealed. His face was pale, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked quite miserable as he stood in the sky. Since his whereabouts had been exposed, he decided not to hide anymore. He stood in the sky openly and looked directly at Divine Master He Yu. Divine Master He Yu sized him up and raised his thick, black brows. A look of surprise flashed across his cold and indifferent eyes. A human kid at the Origin Core realm was actually able to withstand a palm strike from this lord and not die. This child is a promising talent. At the same time, the 50 martial emperor's princes turned their heads and looked at Ji Tianxing. Many of the princes looked surprised as they sized him up with complicated expressions. A few of the princes even started to discuss among themselves. Haha, it's a human kid. His face is quite unfamiliar. He doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he sneak into the Monarch Mansion? Even God can't save him. The sacred dignity of the Monarch Mansion is not to be blasphemed. This kid deserves to die for sneaking in. Interesting. An Origin Core realm human warrior dares to sneak into the Monarch Mansion. This is really strange. Among the 50 princes, 2 of them had a drastic change in expression. They were not like the other princes who were watching coldly from the sidelines and gloating. These 2 people were Long Yunxiao and Yun Yao. When Long Yunxiao saw Ji Tianxing, he immediately frowned and looked surprised. He had never thought that Ji Tianxing would be so bold as to sneak into the Monarch Mansion. When Yun Yao saw Ji Tianxing's appearance, her eyes lit up and her heart was filled with excitement and joy. She could not believe that her telepathy earlier was real. Ji Tianxing had really entered the Monarch Mansion and come to her side. However, the light in her eyes immediately dimmed, and a strong sense of anxiety and worry gushed out. She knew very well that Ji Tianxing would most likely be executed by Divine Master He Yu in front of everyone. As expected, Divine Master He Yu looked at Ji Tianxing with a sharp gaze and shouted indifferently, "Kid, you're the first person who dares to sneak into the Monarch Mansion in the past 100 years. I will give you 3 chances to say your last words. After you say your last words, come and accept your death." The Monarch Mansion was a sacred place for martial arts and was the top mysterious force in the Tianxin continent. How could it allow anyone to sneak in? Divine Master He Yu did not kill Ji Tianxing immediately and even gave him the chance to say his last words. This was already a great kindness. Many princes also looked at Ji Tianxing indifferently and did not feel that there was anything wrong. Ji Tianxing did not want to waste any time and quickly flew towards Yun Yao. After a moment, he arrived before Yun Yao and looked at Yun Yao gently. He squeezed out a smile on his pale face. Chapter 501. Yun Yao also looked at Ji Tianxing with a worried expression. She would rather not see Ji Tianxing than see him in a desperate situation. But now that Divine Master Blackfeather had discovered him and spoke in front of everyone, the outcome seemed to be decided. Yun Yao was extremely worried, but there was nothing she could do. She could only sigh. "Tianxing, you shouldn't have come here." Ji Tianxing looked at her clear eyes and said calmly, "But I'm already here. I can only be at ease when I see that you're safe." How could Yin Yao not understand his feelings and feelings? But now, it was too late to say anything. The only thing she could do was to plead with Divine Master Blackfeather. At this moment, Ji Tianxing turned to look at Divine Master Blackfeather. He cupped his hands and bowed respectfully. "Divine Master Blackfeather, I'm Ji Tianxing. I sneaked into Monarch Mansion just to see my senior sister. I didn't mean to offend the monarch mansion's dignity. Please understand. Yin Yao also hurriedly bowed to Divine Master Blackfeather and said sincerely, Divine Master Blackfeather, Tianqing is my junior brother. We were separated for a few months, and he was worried about me, so he rashly barged into the monarch mansion. Please forgive him, Divine Master. Divine Master Blackfeather looked at Yin Yao and Tianqing indifferently and said coldly, The monarch mansion's dignity cannot be offended. No matter what difficulties he has, he must die. This is the monarch mansion's rule, and it cannot be changed. Yin Yao pleaded again. She quickly said, Divine Master Heiyu, please be lenient and spare Tianqing this time. A few months ago, when the ancient demon emperor broke through the sky pillar seal array, I personally experienced that calamity. As for my junior brother Tianqing, he fearlessly faced the ancient fiend emperor head-on and even injured him and forced him to retreat. He was the one who had saved the Sky Pillar sect and the Star Ancient Realm. He had saved the billions of citizens of the Heavenly Stellar region. He was the great hero of the Heavenly Stellar region. If the Imperial Residence wants to deal with the ancient demonic emperor, they can't kill Tianqing. He knows the ancient demonic emperor's strength better than we do. Upon hearing Yin Yao's words, everyone present was stunned. They all had expressions of disbelief and disbelief. Many princes stared at Tianqing, their sharp eyes observing him as if they wanted to see through him. One of the demon race's princes said, Yin Yao, aren't you exaggerating? If this person can defeat the ancient demon emperor, doesn't that mean that every one of us here can kill the ancient demon emperor? This person's words caused many princes to nod in agreement. Another young master from the water tribe chimed in, He's only at the origin core realm, not even at the heavenly origin realm. The ancient demonic emperor was an unparalleled demon from 1,000 years ago. Even if he was sealed for 1,000 years and his strength was greatly reduced, he's still not someone an origin core realm martial artist can deal with. Golden Dragon Tai sat on the spiritual jade throne and calmly glanced at Yin Yao. He said indifferently, That kid is Yin Yao's junior brother. The two of them have a close relationship. It's understandable that Yin Yao is pleading for him. However, Yin Yao, you actually made up such a ridiculous lie just to plead for him. That's not befitting of a princess. Tai Yi's words naturally garnered the approval and support of many princes from the water tribe. Everyone was certain that Yin Yao was lying. With Tianqing's strength, it was impossible for him to defeat the ancient demonic emperor. That was simply unheard of. However, Divine Master Heiyu did not speak. He frowned slightly and looked at Tianqing calmly. He seemed to be in deep thought. The princes did not know about the ancient demonic emperor, but he had already known about it. That was why he had gathered the princes for a discussion. A few months ago, the ancient demonic emperor broke through the Sky Pillar seal array and started a massacre in the Star Ancient Realm. Someone stepped forward and severely injured the ancient demonic emperor, forcing him to flee. That was how the small Sky Pillar sect survived and was not destroyed by the ancient demonic emperor. Yin Yao and this kid are both disciples of the Sky Pillar sect and should have personally experienced that disaster. If what Yin Yao said is true, and the person who defeated the ancient demonic emperor is really Tianqing, then this kid's talent and strength are truly unimaginable. He might even surpass the princes present. When he thought of this, Divine Master Heiyu's gaze towards Tianqing became much gentler. As the sacred land of martial arts in the Tianxin continent, the imperial residence stood proudly above the mortal world and usually did not care about the mundane matters of the martial arts world. Only the top martial arts prodigies would receive the imperial residence's attention and nurture. Tianqing's shocking talent and strength far surpassed many of the princes present. He was the top prodigy that the imperial residence craved the most. At this moment, Long Yinshao also stood up. He bowed to Divine Master Heiyu and said with cupped hands, Divine Master Heiyu, I can also testify that Tianqing defeated the ancient demonic emperor. Also, Tianqing did not trespass when he sneaked into the imperial residence. He has already decided to enter the imperial residence and made an agreement with me. He will challenge me in front of everyone at the Apocalypse Tower next month. He already meets the basic requirements of the imperial residence. If he can defeat me, he can pass the imperial residence's test and become the new prince. After hearing Long Yunxiao's explanation, many princes raised their eyebrows and looked at him and Ji Tianxing with playful eyes. Divine Master He Yu also raised his eyebrows and looked at Long Yunxiao calmly. Oh, there's such a thing? Absolutely. Long Yunxiao cupped his hands and said with a serious expression, Divine Master He Yu, please be merciful and forgive him this time. Divine Master He Yu frowned and thought for a moment. He then looked at Ji Tianxing and said in a dignified tone, Ji Tianxing, you can sneak into the imperial residence. With such talent and strength, you are also a good seedling. Our imperial residence is based in the Tianxian continent. As the top martial Dao sanctuary, we are naturally thirsty for talents. Since the two imperial princes are pleading on your behalf, I'll give you a chance today. I will give you a month's time. If you can really defeat Prince Long Yunxiao, you can pass the imperial residence's test and become the 56th prince. In this way, you will not be considered trespassing into the imperial residence, and I will not pursue your crime. However, if you lose to Prince Long Yunxiao, you cannot become the prince of our imperial residence. I will punish you according to the rules of the imperial residence. After hearing Divine Master He Yu's words, Yun Yao and Ji Tianxing were relieved. Since Divine Master He Yu was willing to give him a month's time, at least there was room for negotiation. Long Yunxiao also looked confident and said with a smile, Don't worry, Divine Master He Yu. I will do my best and will not give him a chance to win. If he loses to me, there is no need for Divine Master He Yu to punish him. I will take care of him. After hearing this, Yun Yao looked at Long Yunxiao coldly and glared at him. Chapter 502. Since Divine Master He Yu had spoken, this matter was settled. All the princes looked on coldly and did not discuss this matter anymore. Ji Tianxing bowed to Divine Master He Yu and cupped his hands. Thank you, Divine Master He Yu. I will definitely defeat Long Yunxiao and enter the monarch mansion as soon as possible to become the new prince. Divine Master He Yu nodded slightly and said indifferently, You still have to wait for a month to become the new prince. Now, you're not the prince of this mansion, so you are not qualified to stay in the monarch mansion. I still have to discuss important matters with the princes. You should leave quickly. After saying that, Divine Master He Yu waved his wide sleeves and signaled Ji Tianxing to leave. Yun Yao quickly cupped her hands and said, Divine Master He Yu, I will send him out of the monarch mansion. Divine Master He Yu nodded and agreed to her request. Therefore, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao turned and left, flying towards the exit of the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing endured his internal injuries and flapped his golden wings to fly in the sky. Yun Yao also flapped her fiery wings and followed beside him, flying side by side with him. On the way, Yun Yao looked at him with concern and said, Tianxing, don't do something as dangerous as trespassing on the monarch mansion again. Ji Tianxing nodded and said gently, Senior sister, I have not seen you since you sacrificed yourself to save me. I know you're seriously injured and almost lost your life. I'm worried about you and just want to see you. Yin Yao stared at him with a complicated look in her eyes. She sighed and said, Tianxing, you're risking your life just to see me. Is it worth it? Yes. Ji Tianxing answered without hesitation. Yun Yao was silent, but a touch of gentleness flashed across her clear eyes. In front of others, she was cold and aloof, and her temperament was as cold as ice. Only in front of Ji Tianxing would her frosty aura melt and turn into soft water. Ji Tianxing said seriously, In a month's time, the emperor will choose his heavenly concubine at the Apocalypse Pagoda. Eldest senior sister, don't worry. When that day comes, I will climb up the Apocalypse Tower and defeat Long Yunxiao in front of everyone. After I defeat him, not only will he not make things difficult for you, I can also enter the Monarch Mansion. Madame Yin also promised me that as long as I can enter the Monarch Manor, she will not stop us from meeting. Eldest senior sister, after I enter the Monarch Mansion, I will be able to see you every day. Ji Tianxing's tone was very solemn, and his eyes were full of confidence and expectation. Yin Yao nodded and warned, Tianxing, I believe everything you said. I believe that you will definitely defeat Long Yinxiao. However, Long Yinxiao was at the second level of the Sky Origin stage after all. He had mastered many secret skills from the royal court. His true power was not to be underestimated. You must be careful and not be careless. Ji Tianxing nodded and said, I understand, eldest senior sister. Not long after, the two of them flew above a vast grassland and arrived at the exit of the monarch mansion. On the vast grassland, there was a huge altar that was 30 meters tall. The altar was 100 meters wide, and there was a huge circular array board at the top. It was engraved with mysterious array patterns. The formation plate lit up with colorful brilliance, condensing into a colorful light gate that was 100 meters tall. It was a teleportation array and also the entrance to the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing and Yin Yao landed on the array board. Yin Yao took out the monarch's token and activated the teleportation array with a secret skill. Swoosh! The barrier in the colorful light gate disappeared and turned into a whirlpool. Yin Yao looked at Ji Tianxing and said, Tianxing, take care. Eldest senior sister, don't worry about me. We will meet again soon. Ji Tianxing waved at Yin Yao and stepped into the teleportation array. The next moment, his figure was swallowed by the whirlpool and he left the monarch mansion. Swoosh! With a flash of colorful light, he appeared in the forest of divine steels, under the towering gate that was 100 meters tall. He looked back at the gate of the monarch mansion and then left, rushing back to the breeze courtyard in the fish dragon alley. 1 hour later, Ji Tianxing returned to the breeze courtyard. Ji Ku and Yin had already returned to the breeze courtyard. They had been sitting in the pavilion of the first courtyard, waiting for his return with worry. When Ji Tianxing crossed the gate and entered the courtyard, the two people who were waiting for him immediately saw him and hurriedly went up to greet him. Brother Tianxing, you are finally back. Senior brother Tianxing, you are finally back. I'm glad you are okay. Ji Ku and Yin came closer and saw that Ji Tianxing had suffered internal injuries. His face was a little pale, and there were still traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Immediately, the two of them showed concern and quickly asked, Brother Tianxing, how did you get hurt? What happened? Did the powerhouses of the monarch mansion find you? Senior brother Tianxing, are your injuries serious? Ji Tianxing waved his hand, indicating that they did not need to worry. My injuries are not serious. I will recover in a few days. This is not the place to talk. Let's go back first. Ji Ku and Yin were relieved and quickly followed him back to the living room of the third courtyard. After sitting down, Ji Tianxing saw that there was no one around to disturb them. Then, he explained the situation to them. With the help of Yin Er's invisibility charm, I successfully sneaked into the monarch mansion. I happened to meet a divine master and many princes who were discussing how to deal with the demonic emperor. Furthermore, I even saw eldest senior sister. She personally sent me off. Ji Ku and Yin were excited and looked expectant. They quickly asked, Brother Tianxing, you met the legendary divine master and many princes? The monarch mansion summoned many princes back to Middle State City because of the demonic emperor. Senior brother Tianxing, what is the monarch mansion stance? Will they deal with the demonic emperor? Ji Tianxing frowned and said regretfully, the monarch mansion took a neutral stance in dealing with the demonic emperor. They did not express their stance, but listened to the opinions of the princes first. Among the princes of the three clans, only the human clan and the demon clan supported dealing with the demonic emperor. The water clan was indifferent and looked on coldly. Before I heard the monarch mansion's stance, the invisibility charm was about to expire. Then, I was discovered by the divine master Heiyu. Speaking of which, the divine master Heiyu of the soul cultivation stage is really powerful. A casual palm strike from him could shatter the sky and almost take my life. Recalling divine master Black Feather's seemingly ordinary but terrifyingly powerful palm strike, Ji Tianxing still felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, The wings of Qin Shin's battle robe helped him block the power of the palm strike. Otherwise, he would not have come back alive. Jiku and Yin were originally full of expectations, hoping that the monarch mansion would come out to deal with the demonic emperor. In that case, the demonic emperor would be eradicated quickly, and the Sky Pillar sect and the ancient star realm would be completely stable. Chapter 503. Jiku and Yin then asked Ji Tianqing about Yin Yao. The three of them chatted for a while before Jiku and Yin took their leave and returned to their residence. Ji Tianqing also prepared to return to his residence to recuperate in seclusion for a few days. However, as soon as he walked out of the living room, he saw the Beast King walking towards him. When the Beast King saw him, he quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Nephew Tianqing, this old man has something to talk to you about." Ji Tianqing stopped, cupped his hands to the Beast King, and asked, "What is the matter, Senior Beast King?" The Beast King did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Nephew will be preparing to enter the Monarch Mansion in the near future, so you will definitely concentrate on improving your strength and will have no time to take care of Qianyu. It just so happens that this old man has been idle recently and has become more proficient in raising spirit beasts. If nephew doesn't mind, you might as well give Qianyu and the flood dragon to this old man. This old man will personally train and teach them, and they will definitely grow faster. Once they become stronger, they will be of great help to you, nephew." Ji Tianqing naturally would not refuse the Beast King's kindness. He quickly cupped his hands and thanked him. "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Beast King. I will leave Qianyu and the little black dragon in your care." After saying that, he took off the 100 treasures brocade pouch from his waist and handed it to the Beast King. Qianyu and the little black dragon were sleeping in the 100 treasures brocade pouch, quietly cultivating. Unfortunately, they did not have sufficient cultivation resources, nor could they get the guidance of a master, so their speed of improving their strength was very fast. This was a common characteristic of all spirit beasts. Their growth speed was very slow. They often needed to spend hundreds of years to become Yuan Dan stage great monsters or Heavenly Origin stage monster kings. After the Beast King received the 100 treasures brocade pouch, he told Ji Tianqing, "Nephew, you can cultivate at ease. This old man will not disturb you. If you need anything, just tell White Ape to do it. He will definitely do it well. If nephew is worried about Qianyu and the little black dragon, you can also visit them often to check on their progress." Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior. Junior will be eternally grateful." The two exchanged some pleasantries before the Beast King left with the 100 treasures brocade pouch. Ji Tianqing also returned to his residence and went into seclusion to recuperate. The Beast King had prepared a separate courtyard for him, Jiku and Yin. It was called Jade Pure Court. This clear jade garden was the most elegant and unique courtyard in the Clear Breeze courtyard, with the most abundant spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Ji Tianqing's room was not only elegant and comfortable, it was also equipped with a secret training room and a pill room. Both the secret room and the pill room were equipped with heaven origin grade formations, which could provide an endless supply of heaven and earth spiritual chi. Cultivating in the Clear Jade Garden was faster than cultivating in the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged in the secret chamber, absorbing the spiritual energy in the spirit gathering array. Strands of 5-colored spiritual energy flowed into his body like a small stream flowing into a large river. Relying on the powerful self-healing ability of the Kenshin bloodline, he quickly healed his internal injuries and replenished the true essence he had consumed. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Early in the morning, Ji Tianqing's injuries had healed, so he ended his seclusion and left the secret chamber. He returned to his room and brewed a pot of spiritual tea, preparing to taste the spiritual tea personally cultivated by the Beast King. At this time, the sound of muffled footsteps came from outside the courtyard. He probed with his spiritual sense and saw White Ape quickly walking into the courtyard, holding a silver-edged invitation in his hand. A moment later, White Ape came to his room and knocked on the door. Ji Tianqing got up and opened the door. asking, "White Ape, why are you looking for me?" White Ape handed the invitation to him and said solemnly, "Tianxing, a messenger came to see you just now. He brought this invitation and said that he wanted to give it to Miss Ji Ku." An invitation? Ji Tianxing took the luxurious and dazzling invitation and carefully observed it. The invitation was made of golden paper and wrapped with silver thread at the edges. It was also inlaid with a few gems that flickered with light. Mysterious array patterns were engraved on the invitation, which contained a powerful array power. It looked extremely exquisite and noble. Just this invitation alone was worth at least 10 spirit stones. Ji Tianxing frowned in confusion and asked, "Someone who can afford this kind of invitation must have an extraordinary background. White Ape, did you ask who the messenger was delivering the letter for?" White Ape answered truthfully, "I've already asked. The messenger said that he was a guard under Imperial Prince Kunwu." Imperial Prince Kunwu? Ji Tianxing frowned, his eyes full of doubts and puzzlement. Why would Kunwu send someone to deliver an invitation to Kuko? The two of them have nothing to do with each other. White Ape naturally couldn't answer this question. He cupped his hands at Ji Tianxing, and after bidding farewell, he turned around and left. Ji Tianxing held the golden jade invitation and frowned for a moment before he went to the next room to find Ji Ku. Ji Ku was cultivating when she heard the knock on the door. She quickly stopped and opened the door to welcome Ji Tianxing in. "Brother Tianxing, why are you looking for me?" Ji Tianxing handed the invitation to her and explained, "Imperial Prince Kunwu's guard just sent this invitation to you." Imperial Prince Kunwu? Was it that so-called demon prince? He sent me an invitation? Ji Ku was stunned and thought that she had misheard. After she came back to her senses, she frowned in confusion. "I don't know this guy. Why would he send me an invitation? We only saw his guard of honor on the street that day. Before that, I've never heard of this person." Ji Tianxing nodded. "This is indeed unbelievable. Open the invitation and take a look first." Ji Ku did as she was told. She opened the invitation and read it carefully. After reading the contents of the invitation, her expression became more and more astonished. She said suspiciously, "Brother Tianxing, that Imperial Prince Kunwu actually invited me to Xingyu Villa as a guest." Ji Tianxing frowned. "Invited you to Xingyu Villa as a guest? What is this Imperial Prince Kunwu trying to do?" Ji Ku was also confused and couldn't make sense of it. She frowned and thought for a moment. Then she pursed her lips and said, "Brother Tianxing, we don't know that Kunwu at all. Regardless of whether he sent the wrong invitation or if he has some scheme or intention, we don't need to pay attention to him." Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said in a solemn tone, "Since Kunwu's guard was able to find Qingfeng Courtyard, he must have followed you or secretly investigated you. Since he specifically asked for the invitation to be given to you, there must be a reason behind it. No matter what, let's go to Xingyu Villa and see what he's trying to do." Ji Ku didn't want to go. Whether Kunwu was a demon prince or the imperial prince of the monarch residence, it had nothing to do with her. Chapter 504. Ji Tianxing found White Ape and asked him about the location of Star Moon Manor. White Ape thought for a moment and told him that Star Moon Manor was outside Zhongzhou City, on Star Moon Mountain in the western suburbs. It was said that Star Moon Manor was a magnificent, palace-like manor. It was the temporary residence of a distinguished person. The moment Ji Tianxing heard this, he understood that the so-called honorable person was most likely referring to Emperor Kunwu. After he and Ji Ku were ready, they left Qingfeng Courtyard and rushed to the western city gate. It was the time when the sun rose, so there were few people on the streets. Ji Tianxing held Ji Ku's hand and flapped his golden wings, flying in the air as fast as light. About an hour later, they passed through the western city gate and left Zhongzhou City. The western suburbs outside the city were covered with rolling mountain ranges, lush forests, and lofty mountains. 200 miles away from the western city gate, there was a crescent-shaped mountain range called Star Moon Mountain. Ji Tianxing took only an hour to arrive at Star Moon Mountain with Ji Ku. The two of them looked down at the peak of Star Moon Mountain from the sky. Soon, they found the magnificent Star Moon Manor hidden in the forest. Star Moon Manor was built on the peak of a mountain that was thousands of feet high and covered an area of 10 miles. The entire manor was very spacious and imposing. There were many majestic and dignified palaces and rows of exquisite and elegant houses within the manor. There were also several gardens, 2 clear lakes, and beautiful pavilions and other buildings in the manor. Ji Tianxing could see that the architectural style of Star Moon Manor was different from that of the human tribe's palaces. It had a strong foreign style. Moreover, the entire manor was protected by the Tianyuan Formation, and there were countless guards and maids in the manor. Star Moon Manor was not only luxurious, but also heavily guarded. After seeing the layout of Star Moon Manor, Ji Tianxing descended from the sky with Ji Ku and landed outside the main gate of Star Moon Manor. The gate of the manor, which was nearly 100 meters tall, was like the gate of a majestic city. It was guarded by dozens of muscular demon guards. Ji Tianxing led Ji Ku to the entrance calmly. A guard captain hurriedly walked out and stopped the 2 of them in a dignified manner. Ji Tianxing didn't say much and took out the golden invitation card. After the guard captain saw the invitation, he immediately bowed respectfully to the 2 of them. "So it's your Highness' esteemed guest. Please forgive me if I was rude just now. Please follow me. His Highness has been waiting in the heart-nourishing lake for a long time." After saying that, the guard captain personally led the way for the 2 of them and brought them into the Star Moon Villa. Under the lead of the guard captain, Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku passed through 2 layers of palaces and courtyards. They crossed several paths and corridors before entering an elegant garden. In a huge garden, there was a mirror-like lake. All kinds of spirit willows and flowers were planted around the lake. In the middle of the sparkling lake, there was an octagonal pavilion with cornices that was about 10 feet tall. Its design was extremely exquisite and unique. There were no pillars at the bottom of the pavilion, but it floated above the lake and was as stable as a huge mountain. The pavilion was surrounded by clear lake water. There was no covered bridge connecting the shore. No matter who wanted to enter the pavilion, they had to fly in the air or use qin gong to step across the lake. Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku came to the shore of the lake and saw a stone table and a few stone stools in the exquisite and elegant pavilion. A tall and handsome demon youth wearing a white fox fur coat was sitting in front of the stone table. His right arm was placed on the stone table, and his palm was supporting his handsome and resolute face. His left hand was holding a cup of spirit tea, and he was quietly sipping it. This person exuded an unruly, noble, and powerful aura. He was obviously Prince Kunwu. In addition, there were 2 charming demon maids in the pavilion. One of them was in charge of pouring tea, while the other was sitting at the edge of the pavilion, waving her slender hands and playing a guqin. The melodious sound of the guqin kept coming from the pavilion, making people feel refreshed and relaxed. The captain of the guards bowed to Prince Kunwu in the pavilion and reported loudly, "Your Highness, the honored guests are here." Prince Kunwu came back to his senses and turned to look at Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku by the shore of the lake. "Let them in." After saying this, he waved his hand and shot out a light blue true essence light beam, pouring it into the sparkling lake. Dense mist immediately rose from the surface of the lake and condensed into ice in the blink of an eye, forming a 10-meter-long covered bridge. The crystal-clear ice-covered bridge spanned across the 10-meter-wide lake. One end was connected to the pavilion, and the other end extended to Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku's feet. Such a mysterious and extraordinary technique with spiritual qi was not something an ordinary Heaven's Prime cultivator could perform. At least, an ordinary Heaven's Prime cultivator could not do it as easily as Prince Kunwu, who could form a huge ice bridge with a flick of his finger. However, Ji Tianxing did not step onto the ice bridge. He flapped his golden wings and flew across the lake with Ji Ku as fast as a beam of light and landed in the pavilion. Seeing this, Prince Kunwu could not help but raise his eyebrows. Of course, he knew that the other party did not seem to appreciate his kindness and did not have a good impression of him. However, he did not take it to heart. "Please have a seat." Kunwu sat on the stone bench and did not get up. His left hand was still holding the teacup as he greeted them calmly. As he spoke, he sized up Ji Tianxing and Ji Ke calmly. When he saw Ji Tianxing's face clearly, he frowned and said in surprise, "You are that Ji Tianxing who trespassed into the emperor's residence." "Haha, I didn't expect us to meet again." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said, "I am Ku Ku's elder brother. You invited her to Star Moon Village, so I naturally have to accompany her." "Oh." Kunwu raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. "Fate is so clever. I didn't expect you to have such a relationship." Then, he ordered the demon clan, maid behind him, pour tea for the two guests. The demon clan, maid was very clever and immediately served Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku 2 cups of spiritual tea. Ji Ku did not appreciate it and said to Kunwu expressionlessly, "There is no need for tea. I have never met you before. Why did you invite me to Star Moon Village? What is it? What is it? Just say it." Kunwu looked at her deeply and said with a smile, "Ji Ku, although we do not know each other, there is no enmity between us. I have no ill intentions. This monarch invited you to Star Moon Manor to taste the tea, look at the scenery, and chat a little. That's all." Ji Ke frowned and wanted to say something. However, Ji Tianxing revealed a playful smile and nodded. "All right, since Prince Kunwu wants to drink tea and chat, we will naturally keep you company." Chapter 505. The pavilion quieted down. Only the elegant and soothing sound of the zither lingered in everyone's ears. Ji Tianxing tasted a few mouthfuls of the spirit tea. He felt that after the tea entered his mouth, its fragrance overflowed and the taste was wonderful. After the tea entered his throat, it turned into rolling spirit energy that surged into his body. Immediately, his true essence surged even more, and his spirit was also refreshed. Prince Kunwu's spirit tea is indeed extraordinary. It can be said to be the best. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and praised. Ji Ku didn't want to taste any tea. He just sat quietly and waited for Kunwu to start talking. However, when she smelled the fragrance of the spirit tea and heard Ji Tianxing's evaluation, she couldn't help but pick up the teacup and take a small sip. As soon as she started tasting the tea, she was attracted by the miraculous effects of the spirit tea and couldn't stop. Seeing this, Kunwu smiled slightly and said proudly, "This is the best spirit tea from my clan's spirit mountain. If the two of you like it, you can taste it to your heart's content." Ji Tianxing put down the teacup and said seriously, "The spirit tea has been tasted. Can Prince Kunwu talk about business now?" Kunwu nodded slightly and stared at him. He asked seriously, "Ji Tianxing, do you believe in fate?" Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown and asked, "What do you mean?" Kunwu smiled and said in a sincere tone, "You might not believe me when I tell you about this. A few days ago, on the day I returned to the Monarch Mansion, I saw Ji Ku in the crowd when I passed by the street. I don't know why, but I always felt that I knew her and that there was a wonderful fate between us." Hearing this, Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku both frowned and looked at him, quietly waiting for him to continue. They didn't know what he wanted to do. Kunwu continued, "After that, I thought about it for 2 days. My mind has been haunted by this matter. My heart was restless, which naturally affected my martial arts cultivation. I had to untie this knot in my heart. Thus, this monarch ordered people to secretly investigate Ji Ku's name and residence. Only then did this monarch send her an invitation, wanting to meet her." Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and asked, "We've already made the appointment, and you've seen the person. What do you want to do?" Kunwu waved his hand and said, "Ji Tianxing, you don't have to take it to heart. I just want to ask her a few questions." Then, he looked at Ji Ku and asked, "Miss Ji Ku, may I ask where you are from and where you live?" Ji Ku didn't understand what he was up to and could only answer truthfully, "I'm from the Qingyun Kingdom of the Tianshan region." Kunwu nodded and asked, "How many people do you have in your family? Who are his parents?" Ji Ku's gaze turned playful as a teasing smile appeared on his lips. He replied, "My family is too big. There are at least 3,000 to 5,000 people." Kunwu was stunned and didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her answer. Ji Tianxing chuckled and explained, "Prince Kunwu, Kuku's background isn't a secret. If you send people to investigate, you'll naturally find out. I'll tell you directly. Ku is the princess of the Qingyun Kingdom's royal family. Oh, I see. Kuan Wu was enlightened and revealed a smile. Next, Kuan Wu asked Ji Ku a few more questions and indirectly asked about her family background. Ji Ku wasn't scheming, and he was magnanimous and innocent. He didn't have anything to hide, so he answered truthfully. An hour later, Kuan Wu had asked everything that she could ask, so the conversation ended here. Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku got up and bid farewell. Prince Kuan Wu, if there's nothing else, we'll take our leave. Kuan Wu quickly got up and sent them off. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Miss Ji Ku, for clearing my doubts. If fate allows, we'll meet again. Ji Tianxing, you're an interesting guy. I hope you can pass the assessment next month and become the new emperor. I'll be counting on your auspicious words." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and flew across the lake with Ji Ku. They left the heart-nourishing lake. The captain of the guard stayed by the lakeside and led the way back to where they came from. Kuan Wu stood in the pavilion in the middle of the lake and watched Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku's figures leave. A playful smile appeared on his face. Whether it's true or not, we'll know soon enough. He muttered to himself and turned to walk out of the pavilion. He stepped into the air and left the heart-nourishing lake. After Ji Tianxing left the Star Moon village with Ji Ku, they flew across the sky and returned to Zhongzhou City. Ji Ku looked back at the Star Moon village and couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Brother Tianxing, that guy Kuan Wu invited us here just to have a cup of tea and ask about my background. Why did he investigate me? What is he trying to do?" Ji Tianxing was also confused. He shook his head and said, "He's a demon prince and also an emperor's son. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to have anything to do with you. However, he must have other intentions for spending so much effort to invite you to meet him. Unfortunately, I can't see through him and can't guess his intentions." Ji Ku frowned and curled her lips. "Forget it. Who cares what his intentions are? We'll just ignore him in the future." "Okay." Ji Tianxing nodded and didn't say anything else. Soon, 45 minutes passed, and the two of them were far away from the Star Moon Mountain. Ji Ku hugged Ji Tianxing's arm and looked down at the mountains and rivers below. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, causing her body to tremble and her face to turn pale. She endured the pain and was about to circulate her energy to investigate the situation. At this moment, it was as if a ball of fire had ignited in her abdomen. It quickly spread and rushed into her limbs and bones. In the blink of an eye, her entire body became scalding hot and bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. The intense pain assaulted her like waves, and she couldn't hold on any longer. She let out a painful groan. "Ugh, Brother Tianxing, I feel terrible." Ji Tianxing also noticed that Ji Ku's situation wasn't good. Seeing that her entire body was red and her arms and cheeks were scalding hot, he quickly landed on a mountain peak. After Ji Ku's feet touched the ground, she couldn't stand steadily and fell onto the grass. She hugged her head with both hands and groaned in pain. She was actually rolling on the ground in pain. "Ah, my head. It's going to split open. It hurts. Brother Tianxing, I'm in so much pain." Seeing Ji Ku in so much pain, Ji Tianxing was instantly filled with anxiety. "Ku, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly become like this?" As he spoke, Ji Tianxing quickly held Ji Ku's hand and used his spiritual sense to investigate the situation in her body. Soon, he found that there was an extremely violent and strange energy in Ji Ku's body. It was rampaging and spreading. Not only that, even her head was filled with that violent energy, and her mind was in a mess. Ji Tianxing quickly used his true essence and injected it into Ji Ku's body. He wanted to help her suppress that strange energy and reduce her pain. Chapter 506. Ji Ku suffered enormous pain and torment, rolling over and over on the grass as she constantly emitted painful moans. Ji Tianxing was filled with anxiety and worry, yet he was unable to help her alleviate her pain. He pondered for a moment and immediately realized where the problem lay. Ku was fine this morning, but she became like this after making a trip to Star Moon Villa. She drank a cup of spirit tea in Star Moon Villa. There must be something wrong with that cup of spirit tea. When he thought up to here, he was instantly filled with rage, and he cursed in an angry tone. Damnable Kuan Wu. He actually poisoned the spirit tea? Kuku has no enmity with him. Yet he actually did such a despicable and shameless thing as a demon prince. Bastard. I'll go look for him right now. In his rage, Ji Tianqing instinctively wanted to return to Star Moon Villa to settle the score with Kuan Wu. However, Ji Ku's condition became worse and worse, and her consciousness became more and more muddled. After a short moment, she stopped struggling and moaning, and actually fell into a coma. After she released her hands that were hugging her head, Ji Tianqing noticed that there were actually two bulges protruding from the thick and beautiful hair on top of her head. The two sarcoma-like bulges grew on both sides of the top of her head, one on the left and one on the right, and they were extremely symmetrical in shape and size. The bulges were still constantly moving, as if something was about to drill out from within. Why is it like this? Ji Tianqing was filled with astonishment, and he used his spirit sense to investigate, yet he was unable to find any clues or reason. Helpless, he could only utilize his true essence to protect Ji Ku's heart meridian and mind, so as to prevent her from encountering any mishap and losing her life. As for the strange energy in her body, he was powerless to do anything about it. At the same time, there were 4 spirit beasts flying swiftly in the sky not far away. The spirit beast in the lead was a spirit beast with a slender and graceful figure and a wingspan of 30 meters. On the broad back of the green bird sat a young woman with a peerlessly beautiful appearance who wore a green dress. She had a strength at the 6th level of the origin core stage, and her figure and appearance were both top-notch. She could be called a beauty that could topple cities. Even compared to Yun Yao, her looks and manners were almost the same. However, her temperament was gentle and demure, like the white clouds high in the sky. Her eyes were as clear and calm as a lake, without any ripples. Following behind the green bird were 3 spirit beasts, 2 flame birds, and a 4-winged flying leopard. On the back of the 4-winged flying leopard sat a woman in a white dress. She was a little younger, and her looks and figure were also excellent. She could be considered a rare beauty. However, compared to the green-clothed beauty on the back of the blue bird, this woman paled in comparison. On the backs of the 2 blazing birds stood a black robe guard, and both of them possessed a strength around the 4th level of the origin core stage. Everyone quickly flew through the sky, all of them raising their eyes to look at the distant central continent city. Although they were travel-worn and weary, their eyes were filled with anticipation. At this moment, the beautiful woman in green, sitting upright on the back of the blue bird, suddenly frowned. She raised her left hand, and a white light flashed within her palm. Then a simple light azure jade bracelet appeared out of thin air. At this moment, the light azure jade bracelet emitted a mysterious energy fluctuation, and it was ceaselessly flickering with an azure light. The beautiful woman in green frowned slightly when she saw this scene, and she muttered in a low voice. The azure shadow bracelet reacted again. Looks like there's another demon nearby. She immediately asked the blue bird to slow down and stop in the sky. The 3 spirit beasts behind hurriedly slowed down as well, and they stopped in the sky along with the blue bird. The white-clothed young woman on the back of the 4-winged flying leopard looked at the beautiful woman in green with a bewildered expression, and she asked, "Senior Sister Su Wan, we're about to arrive at Central Continent City. Why did you suddenly stop?" The beautiful woman in green, called Su Wan, said with a gentle tone, "Junior sister, there's a demon nearby. I'll go take a look at the situation. All of you wait for me here. I'll be right back." As soon as she finished speaking, she rode the blue bird and flew towards the nameless mountain below. The white-clothed young woman and the 2 black robe guards could only wait in the sky and watch her figure disappear into the distance. Not long after, Su Wan relied on the reaction of the azure shadow bracelet to find a location of the demon. Swoosh! The blue bird landed on the nameless mountain peak. Su Wan jumped down from the back of the blue bird and stepped into the grass. She wore the azure shadow bracelet on her left wrist, and held the azure shadow sword in her right hand. Her sharp eyes looked forward. Suwon silently stepped through the grass and passed through a forest. She saw a grassland in front of her. According to the reaction of the azure shadow bracelet, the demon was in that grassland. However, when Suwon saw the situation in the grassland, she immediately frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. This was because there was no demon in that open grassland. There was only a young man and woman. The aura of the demon actually came from that young woman. Could it be that she's a demon king that can transform into a human form? Suwon pondered for a moment with a heart full of puzzlement before walking towards the young man and woman. Ji Tianxing was filled with worry. He was doing his best to protect Ji Ke's heart and mind. At this moment, his spiritual sense suddenly detected that there was a woman rushing over from the grassland not far behind him. He subconsciously turned his head and looked at the green-clothed woman with a vigilant expression. When he saw the green-clothed woman's appearance, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly returned to normal. Seeing that the green-clothed woman was rushing over with a sword in her hand and seemed to have ill intentions, he shouted in a deep voice, "Stop! Who are you?" The green-clothed woman was Suwon. When she heard Ji Tianxing's cold shout, she hurriedly stopped and stood 10 meters away. She sized up Ji Tianxing and Ji Ke before putting away her sword. She cupped her hands and said, "Little brother, I'm the top disciple of the Heaven and Earth sect, and Suwon." Heaven and Earth sect? Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. He asked in confusion, "Is it the number 1 sect in the Yong and region, the Heaven and Earth sect?" And Suwon was just reporting her identity out of courtesy. She did not expect him to have heard of the Heaven and Earth sect. After a moment of shock, she hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes." Ji Tianxing's gaze softened a lot. He asked calmly, "What are you doing here?" And Suwon explained with a serious expression, "I was passing by just now and sensed the aura of a demon, so I came down to investigate the situation. According to my investigation, the demon aura came from your companion's body. I saw that she seemed to be injured and unconscious. Her situation is a little strange. I'm afraid it has something to do with the demon aura. I was born in a demon refining family and have been proficient in demon refining since I was young. Perhaps I can help you. Little brother, can you let me check on your companion's condition?" After hearing Suwon's explanation, Ji Tianxing instantly frowned. He thought to himself, demon aura? The problem most likely lies with that cup of spirit tea. Kuan Wu is a demon prince. If he poisoned Ku's tea, it's very likely that he used demon methods. Chapter 507. Ji Tianxing was able to discern that what Suwon said wasn't false and didn't seem to be lying. Her manner of speech, bearing were all something that only an elite disciple of a prestigious sect possessed. Moreover, her eyes were clear and bright, and her gaze was gentle and innocent. She didn't seem to have any other objective. Ji Tianxing thought in his heart, "I'm helpless towards Ku's situation. I can't even find out the crux of the problem, let alone help her. What Suwon said is somewhat reasonable, and she doesn't seem like someone who harbors ill intentions. Why don't I let her try? Perhaps she'll really be able to find out the crux of the problem?" After making up his mind, he said to Suwon with a dignified expression, "Miss Suwon, I can allow you to examine Ku's body condition. However, I'll say this first. We don't know each other, so one must always be on guard against others. If you dare harm Ku, then I'll surely not be courteous to you." Although these words were slightly harsh, Suwon was able to understand his feelings, so she nodded. "Don't worry, little brother. I, Suwon, am absolutely not that type of person." As she finished speaking, she walked over to Ji Ku's side in large strides, and she seriously and carefully examined Ji Ku's situation. When she saw the 2 lumps of bulges that appeared on top of Ji Ku's head, a strange expression flashed within her eyes as she vaguely guessed something. After that, she urged the azure shadow bracelet on her left wrist to execute some sort of profound secret technique, and she investigated the situation within Ji Ku's body. During this period of time, Ji Tianxing had always been guarding by Ji Ku's side, and his eyes stared fixedly at Suwon. If Insuin dared to harm Jiku, then he would surely stop her with his fastest speed, and even be able to instantly kill Insuin with a single move. After all, Insuin only possessed a strength at the 6th level of the Origin Core stage. At such a close distance, Insuin would absolutely be unable to dodge his killing move. Fortunately, what Ji Tianxing was worried about and on guard against didn't happen. Insuin had always been seriously investigating Ji Ku's situation, and she didn't have the slightest bit of ill intent, nor did she take any unusual actions. About half a quarter of an hour later, Insuin was done with her investigation and finally stopped. She put away the green shadow bracelet and took out a dark green pill from her space ring. She was about to put it into Ji Ku's mouth. Ji Tianxing immediately reached out to stop her and asked warily, "Miss Insuin, what are you doing?" Insuin was taken aback for a moment before replying subconsciously, "Of course it's to save your companion. You can't be thinking that I'm going to harm her, right?" A wisp of anger flashed in her eyes. She took back the dark green pill and said indifferently, "If little brother doesn't trust me, then I won't save him." On the other hand, a violent demonic energy is wreaking havoc in your companion's body, wantonly destroying her body and internal organs. If not treated in time, your companion's injuries will become more and more serious, and even his life will be in danger. After listening to her explanation, Ji Tianxing finally understood the reason. The violent energy in Ku's body is actually demonic energy. No wonder my true essence was useless and couldn't suppress that demonic energy. He stared into Insuin's eyes, seeing that her eyes were clear and bright. Without the slightest hint of evasiveness, he withdrew his hand and nodded. "Thank you for saving him." Miss Insuin didn't bicker with him. She put the dark green pill into Ji Ku's mouth and circulated her energy to catalyze the pill. Immediately, the dark green pill turned into a wisp of green spiritual mist and entered Ji Ku's body through his mouth. Not long after, the medicinal energy of the pill spread out and produced an effect. The violent demonic energy in Ji Ku's body actually gradually calmed down. Her scorching hot body temperature quickly dropped and returned to normal after a short while. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing finally relaxed and let out a sigh of relief. He cupped his hands towards Insuin and bowed, saying sincerely, "Missin, thank you for saving me. I, Ji Tianxing, will remember this kindness in my heart." "It's nothing. You're welcome." Insuin waved her hand, not minding this. Obviously, she had done this many times before, but she never cared about repayment. Insuin frowned and looked at Ji Tianxing. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "Ji Tianxing, there's something I must tell you." "What is it? Please speak frankly." Miss and Ji Tianxing nodded. Insuin said in a serious tone, "Your companion isn't human. She's a demonic beast." "What? 'Cause a demonic beast?" Ji Tianxing was stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. "That's impossible. Ku is obviously a human. We grew up together since we were young." And Suin's expression didn't change. Her tone was firm as she said, "Ji Tianxing, our family has been demon refiners for generations. We've subdued countless demonic beasts. We're very familiar with demonic beasts and demonic energy. Of course, we demon refiners only deal with evil demonic beasts. We don't fight demonic beasts. An extremely mysterious and powerful demonic energy is sealed in the depths of your companion's soul. She also possesses the bloodline power of a demonic beast. Looking at her condition just now, she must have consumed something that stimulates her demonic energy and bloodline. That's why her demonic energy went berserk." Hearing Insuin's words, Ji Tianxing suddenly recalled that when Jiku awakened the Crimson Star bloodline, he had also fallen into a coma. At that time, the medicine elder had told him that an extremely powerful demonic energy was sealed in Jiku's soul. That powerful demonic energy was innate. It was very likely that it had something to do with Jiku's past. It was also that mysterious demonic energy that almost cost her life. And now, Insuin was saying the same thing. It was basically the same as what the medicine elder had said. Could it be? 'Cause really a demonic beast? Thinking up to this point, Ji Tianxing instantly fell silent. Seeing his silence, and Suin continued. Ji Tianxing, demonic beasts are between demonic beasts and humans. They're an extremely special race. Once a demonic beast, they'll be demonic beasts for all their lives. Although some demonic beasts are exactly the same as humans before they awaken their bloodline and demonic energy. However, when they're strong enough, or when they accept the demonic beast spirit awakening secret art, they'll awaken as demonic beasts and reveal their original appearance. Although I can't tell what kind of demonic beast your companion is for now, but soon she'll definitely reveal her original appearance and become a true demonic beast. When that time comes, you'll naturally understand. And Suin had said everything she needed to say. She didn't say anything else and quietly waited for Ji Tianxing's reply. Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment with a complicated expression. After a while, he cupped his hands in thanks and said, "Thank you for telling me this, Missin. Whether 'cause a demonic beast or not, she's still one of the most important people to me. Missin, what kind of pill did you give Ko? How long will the pill's effects last? I'm worried that before long, the demonic energy in Ko's body will go berserk again. When that happens, she'll have to suffer again." And Suin nodded and revealed a regretful expression. She said, "I'm sorry. The pill I gave her just now was a secret pill concocted by our own family. I only have one pill on me. In her current condition, she can only maintain it for a few days." Chapter 508. And Suin had already done everything she could and said everything she could. Ji Tianxing understood that as a stranger they met by chance, she had already done everything she could. "Missin, thank you again for your help," he thanked Suin with a solemn expression. "You're welcome," and Suin nodded slightly in response. At this moment, a four-winged leopard descended from the sky and landed on the grass. A white-clothed girl jumped off the back of the four-winged leopard and quickly walked towards Ji Tianxing and Suin. The white-clothed girl stared at Ji Tianxing and Ji Ke for a while before saying to Suin, "Senior Marshal Sister Suin, we should go. If we delay any longer, we won't be able to keep the appointment on time. At that time, the other party will inevitably feel that we're not punctual." The white-clothed girl's personality was more lively. Once she opened her mouth, she would talk endlessly without stopping. However, when Suin turned her head and glanced at her, she immediately stopped talking. Suin nodded at Ji Tianxing and calmly said, "I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in salute and watched as she flew into the sky on her blue bird, flying towards Central State City. After a long time, he withdrew his gaze and picked up the unconscious Ji Ke. He spread his wings and flew into the sky, rushing towards the city. 2 hours later, Ji Tianxing returned to Clear Wind Courtyard. As soon as he entered Clear Jade Courtyard, he ran into Yan Er. When Yan Er saw him carrying the unconscious Ji Ke, she immediately revealed a puzzled and worried expression. "Senior Marshal Brother Tianxing, what's wrong with Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ke? What happened? Let's talk inside." Ji Tianxing carried Ji Ke into her room and placed her on the bed. After settling Ji Ke down, he explained to Yan what happened earlier. When Yan Er learned the whole story, his little face suddenly showed a strong anger, and he shouted in a low voice, "Kunwu, as the Demon Clan Prince, the Imperial Prince of the Monarch Mansion, actually did such a thing. Junior Marshal's sister, Ji Ke, had never crossed paths with him before. Why would he scheme to murder Junior Marshal's sister, Ji Ke?" Ji Tianxing said with a cold expression, "Previously, I thought that Kunwu had poisoned the spirit tea, but Ke and I both drank the tea. I was safe and sound, but she suffered such a great change. Later on, I met the head disciple of the Qinquan sect, Suin. She was born in a family of demon refiners, so she was very familiar with demon beasts and demon energy. After her explanation, I understood that Kunwu must have done something to the tea. I'm a human. Of course, I'm fine after drinking that kind of tea. However, Ke's demon power and bloodline were stimulated, which is why she's unconscious." Yan nodded and asked in a deep voice, "Senior Brother Tianxing, what should we do now?" Let's go to Star Moon Village and settle the score with Kunwu. Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, "The most important thing right now is to find Senior Beast King and explain this matter to him. Senior Beast King has studied how to cultivate demon beasts and spirit beasts for his entire life. He should understand the situation and may be able to think of a solution. It won't be too late for us to settle the score with Kuan Wu after Ku's condition stabilizes." Yin thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. "All right, we'll do as Senior Brother said. I'll go and ask Senior Beast King to come here now." After saying that, he quickly walked out of Clear Jade Garden to find the Beast King. Not long after, the Beast King hurried to Clear Jade Garden. After Ji Tianxing explained the situation to him, he cast a spell to check on Ji Ku's condition. He spent a quarter of an hour to clearly check on Ji Ku's condition. Then, he frowned and said, "Ji Ku's condition has stabilized. She's not in any danger. There's a powerful and mysterious force hidden in her body, and it's undoubtedly demon energy. However, that demon energy is too strong and violent. I can't see any clues and can't do anything about it. For now, we can only wait for Ji Ku to wake up and think of another way." Seeing that the Beast King was also helpless, Ji Tianxing and Yin were a little disappointed and worried. Everyone could only disperse and patiently wait for Ji Ku to wake up. Unknowingly, a day had passed. The next morning, Ji Ku finally woke up. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around. Then, she found herself lying in her room. The room was very quiet. There was no one else except her. "Why am I in my room? Where's Big Brother Tianxing? Was he the one who sent me back? What the hell happened yesterday?" Ji Ku murmured a few words with a puzzled expression. She raised her hand to rub her sore eyes and prepared to get out of bed and walk around. However, when she rubbed her eyes with both hands, she suddenly felt a stinging pain in her eyes. She faintly felt that something was wrong and subconsciously looked at her hands. When she saw the appearance of her hands clearly, she was instantly stunned. Her face was full of astonishment. He saw that her originally slender and soft hands had grown thick golden fur at some point in time. Not only were her slender and fair fingers full of golden fur, but they also grew sharp and long black nails. Her hands had turned into a pair of beast claws. They looked somewhat similar to a cat's claws. My hands! How did they become like this?" Ji Ku was completely dumbfounded. She could not believe her eyes. The sudden change and visual impact made her mind go blank. She was at a loss. After a long time, she came back to her senses and hurriedly jumped out of bed. She hurriedly found a bronze mirror and reflected her appearance. When she saw that there were no obvious changes to her cheeks in the bronze mirror, she heaved a sigh of relief. But in the next moment, she was shocked to see two furry ears growing out of the top of her head on both sides of her head. They were two light, golden furry ears. The ears were a little short and triangular. They looked very cute. At first glance, the two little ears looked a little like a cat's ears. However, her original human ears had disappeared into thin air. Ji Ku could not believe all of this. Her psychological defenses immediately collapsed, and she screamed on the spot. Intense panic and helplessness made her tremble all over. The bronze mirror in her hand fell to the ground. The sound of footsteps immediately came from the courtyard outside the room. A moment later, Ji Tianxing's voice, which was filled with concern, was heard in the room. "Cuckoo, are you awake?" Ji Ku, who was in a daze, immediately came back to her senses when she heard Ji Tianxing's voice. She instinctively stood up and rushed to the door with a face full of grievances and fear. At this moment, she was extremely afraid. However, she did not know how to face it. She only wanted to throw herself into Ji Tianxing's arms and cry. However, when she rushed to the door and reached out to open it, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her body froze on the spot. She saw her pair of furry little paws and instantly woke up from her dream. Her eyes were full of despair. Chapter 509. Ji Tianxing stood outside the door. Seeing that there was no movement in the room, he asked again, "Cuckoo, are you okay? I came to check on you." As he spoke, Ji Tianxing was about to push open the door. Jiku's body suddenly trembled. She pressed her hands against the door and hurriedly said, "Big brother Tianxing, I'm a bit tired. I want to rest a bit more." She tried her best to suppress the sadness and despair in her heart, not allowing her voice to reveal any trace of abnormality. Ji Tianxing was silent outside the door for a moment before replying, "All right, then rest well. Call me if you need anything." Jiku's voice was muffled as a layer of mist appeared in her clear eyes. Sparkling tears fell from the corners of her eyes. After a moment, she heard the footsteps outside the door fade away. Only then did she let out a sigh of relief. She silently wiped away her tears and returned to the bedside to sit down. She stared at her hands, looking as if she had lost her soul. Time quietly passed. Unknowingly, it was already afternoon. Ji Tianxing was meditating and cultivating in his room when he suddenly heard a crisp crack coming from the room next door. The sudden cracking sound broke the tranquility of pure jade court. Ji Tianxing was instantly awakened. He immediately rushed out of his room and dashed into Jiku's room. As soon as he pushed open the door, he saw Jiku lying unconscious on the ground. Beside her was a pile of shattered vase. Seeing this scene, he immediately guessed that the demon energy in Jiku's body must have suddenly flared up, causing her so much pain that she wanted to die and causing her to fall unconscious. And when she fell unconscious on the ground, she knocked over the vase beside her. And Suwin said that the medicine's effects would last for a few days. The demon energy in Kuku's body will only flare up after a few days. I didn't think that Kuku's demon energy would flare up in just a day. Ji Tianxing was filled with anxiety and worry. He hurriedly entered the room and walked to Jiku's side to check on her condition. However, when he saw Jiku's appearance, he was stunned. Jiku's hands turned into furry beast claws. Two triangular furry ears popped out from the thick black hair on top of her head. Behind her skirt, half of her fluffy golden tail could be vaguely seen, even though her height, body shape, and facial features had not changed much. However, the beast claws, ears, and tail that suddenly appeared on her body still gave Ji Tianxing a great shock and visual impact. He had never thought that within a short span of a day, Jiku's appearance had undergone such a huge change. Although he was mentally prepared, he was still stunned for a moment when he saw Jiku's sudden change in appearance. After a while, he slowly came back to his senses. Jiku was lying unconscious on the ground. Her small face was deathly pale. Her miserable and pitiful appearance was pitiful. However, her cute claws, little ears, and fluffy little tail did not look sinister or demonic at all. Instead, it made her look even more charming and adorable. Ji Tianxing was sizing up Jiku when Yener and Qianyu rushed into the room like a gust of wind. "Senior Marshal Brother Tianxing, I heard some movement here just now. What happened?" Yen asked with concern as soon as he entered the room. As he spoke, he also saw the situation in the room. When he saw the unconscious Jiku on the ground, he was shocked and stopped in his tracks. How did Junior Marshal's sister, Ji, could become like this?" Ji Tianxing shook his head and frowned. "I don't know what happened. Maybe the demon energy in her body went berserk again." After saying that, he reached out to Jiku's forehead and cheeks and used his spiritual sense to check her situation. The situation was as he said. Jiku's body was burning hot, and there was a mysterious and violent demon energy in her body that was surging and erupting. At this time, Yer stared at Jiku and observed her for a moment. He couldn't help but frown and say, "Junior Marshal's sister, Jiku's demon energy erupted, so she demonized and revealed the characteristics of the demon race? But look at Junior Marshal's sister, Jiku's hands and ears. Why do they look like a fox?" As he said that, he glanced at Jiku's ears and tail, and then turned to look at Qianyu's appearance. Qianyu suddenly frowned and said in a serious tone, "Don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. A fox is a fox, and a raccoon is a raccoon. A fox and a raccoon are two different races. A fox is much smarter than a raccoon. Judging from Jiku's demonized characteristics, she should be a raccoon. I'm different from her. I'm a fox and a noble divine beast, the heavenly fox. Yin nodded as if he understood. He stared at Jiku for a moment and muttered to himself, "Why do I feel that a raccoon is cuter than a fox?" Yu glared at him and said angrily, "Don't compare me with Jiku, okay? She's a demon and I'm a divine beast. How can you compare us?" Yin scratched his head and smiled, but he didn't say anything more. After Ji Tianxing used his spiritual sense to check Jiku's situation, he frowned and said, "Stop arguing. Ku's situation is very unstable and dangerous. We must find a way to save her. Moreover, the signs of her demonization are getting worse. If we don't find a way to suppress that demon energy, I'm afraid she will change again." Yenner also showed an anxious and worried expression. He said in a low voice, "Senior brother Tianxing, our true essence can't suppress junior sister Jiku's demon energy. Even Senior Beast King can't do anything. We don't have any relatives in Central State City. Who can we ask for help?" Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a low voice, "Take care of Ku. Use your spiritual sense to protect her heart and mind. Don't let her life be in danger. I'm going to Star Moon Village to find that bastard Kunwu and ask him." After saying that, he picked up the unconscious Jiku and placed her on the bed. Yin, and Qianyu used their spiritual sense to protect Jiku's heart and mind. Ji Tianxing was about to walk out of the room and rush to Star Moon Village. At this moment, a loud and clear voice came from outside the courtyard. "You don't need to go to Star Moon Village. This monarch has come personally." Ji Tianxing was not unfamiliar with this voice. He raised his head and saw Prince Kunwu crossing the gate and stepping into the courtyard. In addition to Kunwu, there were also 2 Demon Clan guards in black armor guarding the entrance of Pure Jade Garden. Kunwu quickly walked through the courtyard and went straight to Jiku's room. When Ji Tianxing saw him, his eyes darkened. He shouted with a cold expression, "Kunwu, you came uninvited. It seems like you have a plan. Speak. What did you do to Jiku?" Kunwu looked at him calmly and said in an indifferent tone, "Ji Tianxing, I'll say it again. This monarch has no evil intentions. Everything I did was for Jiku's good. 24 hours have passed, and the effect of the Spirit Awakening Tea has completely taken effect. Jiku should have shown her true form by now." Chapter 510. Upon hearing Kunwu's words, Ji Tianxing's expression suddenly changed, and a cold light burst out from his eyes. Spirit Awakening Tea? Revealing her true form? Kunwu, you already knew that Jiku is a demon, so you deliberately used this scheme? Jiku has no enmity with you. What does it have to do with you whether she's a human or a demon? Why do you want to harm her? Kunwu shook her head and stared at Ji Tianxing. Her tone was solemn as she said, "Ji Tianxing, this monarch's actions are a conspiracy to harm her. However, this monarch is helping her. I came here today to save her." Having said that, she saw that Ji Tianxing's anger still hadn't subsided and his eyes were full of hostility, so she added another sentence. "If you don't want anything to happen to Jiku, then let this monarch go in and check her situation. This monarch will let you know the answer and give you a reasonable explanation." Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment before saying in a deep voice, "Kunwu, it's you who made Ku become like this today. You made her suffer pain and danger. Since you came here today, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, I won't spare you." Kunwu also frowned and squinted at him, revealing an arrogant and confident sneer. "You dare to talk nonsense about dealing with this monarch?" Ji Tianxing's aura was also confident and powerful as he said, "You might as well give it a try." Kunwu narrowed her eyes and didn't say anything. She stepped past him and entered Jiku's room. In the room, Jiku was lying unconscious on the bed. Her body was burning hot and her face was flushed. Yin, and Qianyu were using their skills to protect Jiku's heart and mind. Kunwu quickly walked to the bed and looked at Jiku with eyes full of expectation. When he saw Jiku's hands, ears, and light golden fluffy tail, he suddenly looked excited and bright light surged in his eyes. "Great! I really didn't guess wrong." Ji Tianxing, Yin and Qianyu were all anxious and worried about Jiku. Kunwu, on the other hand, was somewhat excited and pleasantly surprised. Naturally, everyone frowned and stared at him coldly. Kuan-Wu ignored everyone's reaction and muttered to herself with a smile. No wonder when I saw her, I felt a sense of déjà vu and my soul throbbed. She really isn't a human, but a member of my Golden Raccoon clan. After saying that, he raised his hand and cast a secret technique to check the condition of Ji-Ku's body. When he sensed the raging demonic energy in Ji-Ku's body, the joy in his eyes grew even stronger. What pure and powerful demonic energy! As he spoke, he took out a crimson pill from his interspatial ring and fed it to Ji-Ku. This time, there was no need for Tianxing to speak. Yin, and Qinyu both glared at Kunwu and stopped him. Kunwu, what are you doing? What kind of pill is this? You're giving it to Ji-Ku so casually. Are you trying to harm her? Ignoring Yin, and Qinyu, Kunwu looked sideways at Tianxing and said sternly, Tianxing, the answer has been confirmed. Ji-Ku is my clansman. I'm going to save her now, and I'll explain it to you later. Tianxing frowned and nodded to Yin, and Qinyu. Yin, and Qinyu no longer stopped him. Kuan-Wu quickly put the crimson pill into Ji-Ku's mouth and channeled his power to catalyze the pill into a crimson light. Swoosh! The crimson light was like flowing water, drilling into Ji-Ku's body and immediately erupting with a powerful medicinal effect. In just 100 breaths, the medicinal effect spread throughout Ji-Ku's body and temporarily suppressed the turbulent demonic energy in her body. Ji-Ku's body temperature gradually returned to normal, and her physical condition also calmed down. She was out of danger. Seeing this situation, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and finally felt relieved. Tianxing stared at Kuan-Wu and said with an expressionless face, Kuan-Wu, you just said that Ji-Ku is from the Golden Raccoon clan and is also your clansman. What's going on? Kuan-Wu nodded and explained in a neither fast nor slow tone. That's right. Ji-Ku is indeed not a human, but a clansman of our Golden Raccoon clan. The Golden Raccoon clan is a noble clan of the Demon clan. The numbers are few, and their bloodline is very noble and special. When I saw her on the street that day, I felt that she was very special and seemed to be related to me by blood. Since that day, I have suspected that she is not a human and is very likely to be a demon clan. Therefore, I secretly sent someone to follow her to Qingfeng courtyard and investigated her situation. Tianxing said with an expressionless face, since you sent someone to investigate Ji-Ku, you should know that she comes from the Heavenly Stellar Region's Royal Azure Dynasty and is a royal princess. If she is a demon clan, how could she be born in a human kingdom? Kuan-Wu pondered for a moment and said, Central Region is too far away from the Heavenly Stellar Region. In a short period of time, my subordinates can't find her in the Heavenly Stellar Region. I don't know her background. Therefore, I ordered someone to send an invitation card to invite her to Star Moon Manor to meet me. I don't want to waste time and only want to find out her identity as soon as possible. That's why I gave you the Spirit Awakening tea. Kuan-Wu, this is the reason why you caused her to become like this? Tianxing revealed a cold smile and said in a cold tone, For more than 10 years, Ji-Ku has been living as a human. She has family and friends and has her own path to walk. Even if there is demon chi hidden in her body, you don't have the right to turn her from a human into a demon clan. Now that she is unconscious, when she wakes up and sees that she has become a demon clan, I don't know how panicked and painful she will be. You keep saying that it's for her own good, but have you ever thought about how she will face this result when she wakes up? How much harm will you bring to her by acting on your own? Kuan-Wu frowned and said in a solemn tone, Tianxing, you probably don't understand. The Demon Clan is an extremely special clan. Born as a demon clan, she will be a demon clan for all eternity. Even if she temporarily has the appearance of a human, her soul and the bloodline in her bones are ultimately demon clans. One day, she will reveal her true form. Moreover, Ji-Ku has a mysterious and violent demon chi hidden in her body. Sooner or later, she will be unable to suppress it and explode. If she doesn't refine it soon, she will definitely suffer pain and torture. She might even lose her life. You guys are helpless against the demon chi in her body, but I can help her refine it and turn danger into safety. She won't have to suffer any more danger and pain. Speaking of this, Kuan Wu paused for a moment. He revealed an unruly smile and said in a proud tone, "Moreover, what's so good about being an ordinary human? Our Golden Raccoon clan is the royal clan of the Demon Clan. How noble is our bloodline and status. The purity of Ji Ku's bloodline and demon chi is not inferior to mine. In the past, she cultivated the human clan's martial Tao, so her progress was slow and she didn't have many achievements.